How do you learn who you really are? It's not found in books. It's found on the battlefield.
Yeah.
We're simpatico. You're like,
Thanks,
we agree. What are you finding on the results? I didn't mean to stop you.
Yeah, no, what I was going to say, we're simpatico because, you talk about distractions and the distractions that people get into. And I after reading a lot of Alfred Adler, he's not very popular these days in psychology. I use the term deflection because he used that. And I find it a little bit more, sometimes use the example of someone like, the goalie in lots of sports that have to defend the goals. They'll deflect the ball from the goals. And that's what a lot of us are doing constantly, is we're defending that thing that we don't want to go near. We don't want to go in the goal, so we deflect everything from the goal. Problem is, by deflecting, you actually hit that ball into someone else's face. So you end up causing this deflected trauma, And I'm using trauma quite lightly here. We shouldn't really do that, but the distraction, if you think about it, like, it's a little different. And I have actually made that distinction. I was doing that with someone the other day about things that can be a distraction are things like the internet, porn, social media apps, alcohol, etc., etc. But then deflection is when someone, like what we were talking about just 5 minutes ago, about how someone will, one technique I've seen is someone will pretend to bond with you, especially as the counselor. They go, they start talking about the other person in their life, and they want you to bond with them about their opinions on the other person. And that's a distraction, So you're quite right. I mean, that's a distraction, but then there's these other things that are deflections.
You want to have some real fun, man. I can already see your big, beautiful brain. All right, let's have some fun with this. I'm going to go into one of the trainings I did yesterday. And this is going to be like, I'm about to publish this book. So this is a correlation that I found with the deflection systems and how people operate and how clever we're able to put together. Our grieving system is connected to coping mechanisms. And what I'm doing now is I am very much with you. And I do not call it trauma response because it enables people. Just like if I agree with you as a way to not focus on my shit and I just agree with your stuff, that deflection is also enabling that nobody is able to challenge to grow because we're so busy agreeing with each other, which then creates a new truth, which is my truth, which is no longer a representation of what is true because it's all a belief system I just created that we both agreed on, which makes it real.
Yeah, so you've reinforced them without even intending to,
So let's talk about the styles for this. Instead of trauma response and instead of, what is the other, attachment styles, these are all bullshit. These are all nonsense. These are all things that people are using as an excuse or a crutch or to self-diagnose their fucked up behavior they don't want to deal with. So I remove all of those. Coping responses is really just a defense system that we use to survive. Nothing fucking crazy about that. That's how we operate. That's how we begin. If we don't have control, how do I manage? Fair enough. Let's look at the correlation of our grieving cycles along with the way that we cope or we deal with things that we don't connect. So let's go into the obvious first one, okay? We got the 4 sections that I'm going to go into, and I changed them up quite a bit. Fight, flight, freeze, fawn. Those are like the basics, right? Well, let's look at them in a correlation with how we grieve. Let's start off with denial. Now, denial with distractions creates addiction. Let's get into the pieces for it. I don't want to deal with my reality, and I'm in the war with what is. But let's look at what some of the pieces for denial does, because denial is one of the cleverest of all. It's the Trojan horse. It's the protector. It's your best friend. Always been there for you. It's the mask that you wear to be loved. It's the persona or the confidence you pretend to have when you're really insecure. It's the mask. It's the fake persona. It's the thing that's not real. But I don't want it to be exposed because my authenticity will cause damage. So let's look at what a denial system as a coping mechanism looks like. I call it retreat, hide, suppress. This is the retreat system, right? I don't want to deal with that. All right, so the traits to this is run or get out, disengage, or even like the classic move away from pain motivation system. I don't want to deal with this. They need to constantly be busy. This is where you're going to start seeing people who become workaholics. They may even be high into such a high repression system. They push the emotions down, and they'll become very task oriented because they don't want to deal with the silence of their own reality. It's I gotta go do the laundry, and I gotta go do this, and I gotta go do that, and I gotta go do this. And so they're going to be constantly distracted. But they also will have a high sense of perfectionism inside of themselves too, because they can't be bad. So I don't want to deal with what is bad. So I'm going to deny any of my faults so I can feel like I'm still doing everything great. So I'll stick to only what I'm going to win at. I've even heard people go as far as, I never lose because I don't play things I won't win at.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, interesting, right?
Yeah.
They have difficulty sitting still. So if anybody sits down and they have a system where like they have to sit in their own thoughts, they do not do well with that. And then the deflection, you'll often hear, I don't want to talk about that. I don't want to talk about that. No, let's talk about something else. Or how about those Bears? Or how about that football game or whatever? Like we're going to something else. I won't even answer the question. I'll just start it. I'll answer with another question or deflect it into something different.
I think if I could just say, Rick, I think one way to detect deflection is when you say something and someone starts with, but blah, 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 blah. Yeah, but, this person said that and that person said this. And yeah, but I've got a busy job. Or yeah, but, there's a lot of that.
Or when somebody will say any word that would sound like agreeing or acknowledging, but it really isn't. Like, oh, I understand, but. Or like, oh, right, but. Like, I think your but is not incorrect.
Deflecting.
It's like you think you're acknowledging, but you don't understand. You're just waiting to talk. And that's a different system, too. That goes into negotiating. Yeah. Let's go to some more stuff here. They seek to find good feelings while putting reality on the back burner. And that's the distractions you're talking about. That goes into the denial plus distraction. That is the recipe for addiction. I don't want to deal with reality, and I want to do anything I can to feel good. And so I'm going to go into feeling good in abundance. And distractions comes in through your pleasure system, which means whatever you like, you can have in abundance. This is sidetrack. If you go spiritual with this one, or even Christianity, the devil usually comes in this area. If you read how he works, he's going to offer what you want the most. So we make out these funny renditions of the devil running around in red Spanx with a pitchfork trying to be like, give me your soul, give me your soul. No, really what he does is he's the coolest dude you've ever met and says, anything you want, I'll give you as much as you can possibly handle and then more.
And you deserve it.
And
even though you've done nothing to deserve it, you somehow deserve it.
In fact, it's my pleasure to give you more than you deserve because you deserve more than anyone's ever told you. Don't be limited anymore. This is how they come in. Pleasure system, drinking, eating sweets, social media, binge watching, prescription drugs, shopping, video games, porn, busy work. You name it, pick your poison as much as you want. It makes it so you don't have to deal with your reality.
There's an interesting spin-off to that. I was just talking about this last week, that it's all good and well to have everything we have in the modern world. We have, you can have chocolate, you can have a whole day of Netflix series, you can be warm, you can be comfortable, you've got all these luxuries. Okay, I mean, we're really at the peak of like human comfort, right? I mean, I sometimes wonder, like 50 years from now, where we heading? I feel like things will just get more, the aesthetics will change, but I think the basics will remain the same. Okay. But, and I don't want to bore you with all the literature behind all this, but, and I think you'll know what I'm talking about anyway, that the consumption of all these luxuries is so freely available, but has very little to do with your input. Okay, so what that means is it kind of fools you into thinking that you can live a valueless life. Okay, so you can just get up, go to work, do your job, you come home, you've got everything you need, you can stuff your face as much as you like, you can watch as much porn as you like, you can, you don't really need friends because you've got 5,000 followers on Instagram or whatever, even if it's more than, really, if it's more than 100, what's that figure that came up with? I think it was 100 that was the average network of the average person. So if you've got more than 100 followers, you've got this perception that you've got loads of followers. So you don't need an individual's approval. But the catch is that when it comes to something good comes your way, something genuinely, meaningfully good, and you realize that you don't deserve this, it comes packaged with guilt. And the guilt causes you to pursue a dishonest solution to that. So you start finding ways to justify that you deserve this somehow. And they found this in studies. Again, I don't want to bore you with the technicalities, but they found this in the studies that the guilt is one of the high emotions that will lead people to lie, basically. So to close that picture that you were just painting about all these things that we have at our fingertips, but if you just take, you're feeding guilt. And this is the approach that I use in my counseling, which is existentialism. So it's incredible to me how many people have never heard of existential guilt, because we all have it, but some of us are like supercharging it with the constant consumption. And they don't even realize that's what they're doing.
No, I'm right there with you too. And so man, we're going to jump back and forth. I love what your brain's doing already. All right. So I like the luxury consumption and having no self-input. The valueless life equals followers equals connection. And then the doing nothing and feeling like when you do get good, you have guilt. And so my definition of guilt is feeling bad for something that either was done or I didn't do. And so instead of shame is different. Shame is feeling bad for what you are. But guilt is feeling bad for what you either did or didn't do. And so if I didn't do anything to deserve this, yet I got something that is good, which is where self-sabotage comes in. This is where we talk about like our women, where they start getting victories that are beyond what they feel their worth is. They will sabotage to make sure it works. I've seen that too. This is one reason I actually, for years ago, I stopped working with women and shifted just to men for that one system. Is because I would watch once they started winning, they got the better job, they got the good guy, they started having more structure. Everything was on like this huge win streak. And then I'd give them like, all right, let's take a week off. Let's go ahead and do our life. Enjoy some moments here. And you come back, like, I quit my job. I'm back with my abusive ex. I don't take care of my kids no more. And I ate all the sweets in the house. And you're like, what happened? And that's when I started realizing the sabotage system based on my worth was lower than what I was getting. Myself.
So I have a question. Do you think, and if there's any ladies listening, I'm sorry if this is going to trigger you.
Let's trigger people. Let's do it. That's their stuff. Let's trigger them.
But I've dealt with a couple of very beautiful people. Okay, women. I mean, physically beautiful. Their souls are beautiful, but I'm talking about their look. Okay. And it boggled my mind that someone who, in one case in particular, someone who had a successful business, her own business, beautiful, gentle, empathetic, smart, must be smart, has this huge business, which she runs herself, genuinely runs herself. And as soon as I introduced any other topic, like in the sense of, just daily life. So in other words, if I switched her out of the talking about her problems with her partner mode, okay, which only happened now and then, but I would see that she's a very smart lady, but beautiful, okay. And I started getting to the point where I actually had to have a special session with her, because I was like, something has come to me that I need to, this is this transference in action. I like to use transference. So if I have something that I feel strongly about you in particular, then I'm going to contact you and I'm going to say, we need to talk about something now, because there's this thing that I have and it's worked for me quite well, So I said to her, let's have a session specifically about this. And we met the one day, this is all online. And I said to her, I have to ask you a very blunt and maybe hurtful question, but is it possible that you're deliberately sabotaging yourself? And she was silent for it was probably 5 seconds, but it felt like 30 seconds, because I was like, oh, there you go. I've just wiped out months of good work, but she was completely floored by this, because she said that effectively since she was 16, she's believed, or she's asked herself actually, why she keeps sabotaging herself. So now she's 33 and she's wondering why she's still doing it, you know? And I mean, I have lots of theories about that as well, but I've seen it with several other people as well. It seems to be, if you have, like you actually said already, you said if you have gifts that you didn't actually earn, there's this mechanism that sabotages any gains from that particular gift until you've reached the point where you've almost by accident, you've now genuinely earned them. So this is what I tried to do with her, is to try and show her that in fact she has earned them. You know, it's not just, her business isn't successful purely because she's good looking. It comes with all sorts of other things, you know. So I'm glad you brought that up. That's a very powerful thing.
Yeah. And a lot of times self-awareness is, it's not a taught skill. That's why we have to give people tools and challenge that they wouldn't normally use to be able to do things that, like, it would seem like the further out you are, you're able to see things differently. But a lot of times people are operating and they're operating like this.
Yeah.
Like, how come I can't see it? I'm like, well, your nose is touching the painting. It's going to look very different than if you take a few steps back. You'll see there's far more colors than just what you're noticing now.
Yeah.
And so that's where, like, you know, what we come in to do is go, let's take a step back and look at this thing. What is worthiness? Where does your worth come from? And it is tough because burden of beauty is a legitimate thing. And now women have burden of beauty plus burden of performance. So now you not only have to do the same level of competition, but you also have to do it in heels and look good doing it. I got three teenage girls. They're trying to impress a boyfriend with their long fake nails, but they also play volleyball, which is a finger injury waiting to happen. So it's like, how do you win this game where, like, I have to try to keep up with this standard of comparison, which is created now on a global scale. So no matter how beautiful you are, there's always somebody in the next level of more beautiful, which is fucking ridiculous to start with. No different than, like, oh, you're making $1 million. Oh, well, that guy makes 2 million or $1 billion. You're never the best. And even if you're the best, then everyone's like, oh, we're going to try and knock you off. Like, there's no win in this game until you can come to an acceptance of your own worth. But there's very difficult questions that we do not want to face and we go into denial about, which is, where does your worth come from then?
Stay with us. We'll be right back.
Warrior, thank you so much for being a part of the information that we have. And you're part of our story as we are a part of yours. It's very much an honor to be able to connect with each other. If you want to know more or you want to get started with working with me or working with our warriors so that you can begin your path to authenticity, strength, leadership, and accountability, this is the way. Together, we are way stronger. Now you get to choose. Do you go forward or keep doing what you've always done? If you stay where you're at, hey, click on some of the stuff and follow what it is. We got motivational stuff. We've got podcasts. We've got more things. Just subscribe and do the stuff, and we'll keep you updated. But if you want to start going in, start jumping into what our programs offer and start your journey and being the hero in your own story.
I love that. That's such a powerful question. I had to write it down. It's such a simple question.
It took me 2 weeks to answer it, so don't feel like it's rough. I send this out to, like, TED talkers and authors and, like, people who are, like, really established, and they're like, man, this one's got me spinning for weeks. I love words, man. I've been up for 2 days on just the word truth. Like, what is it? Like, these are ones. We're not getting into that unless you want to. I got so much more before we get there, but even this one where, like, if she's running into worth, and, like, most likely with her, where was the biggest issue? It was love category, right? It wasn't business. It wasn't success. It wasn't that. It's something with worthiness with the heart.
Yeah. She accepted, the irony, she accepted someone's abuse. And look, he was a full-blown psychopath. He was a genuine, I had sleepless nights because of this lady, which she knows now. So if she watches this, that's fine. But I was very stressed about it because he had all the makings of someone who would attack and do serious harm. So I was quite stressed about that. But she made that selection based on aesthetics.
Correct. So because a lot of her value was given to her based on aesthetics. So she would choose what looks good over what is valuable.
What is good. Yeah. So in fact, there you go. I mean, that because where does your worth come from is funny. It's a cousin of the question that my whole approach to counseling is. I'll usually start with someone. I'll talk to them. I'll engage with whatever they think their problem is. Depending on how that goes, I'll either the first session or the second session maybe. I'll ask them, okay, what are your values?
Oh man, I have nobody's gotten it right.
They don't know.
Like when I do that training, I challenge it down, and I would say it's very rare when I have like their first 10 values broken down on their first 5 values to the top 2 values. Most of the time, their main values aren't even in their main 10.
Yes. Yeah.
You know, so they'll be like family, faith, joy, happiness, hard work, and you put all these things in there, and like you get down to it and you're like, your main value is growth and service. What do you didn't even have those on there. Or it's connection and it's, authenticity. Like you're going to find things that these aren't even your main values.
Yeah, it's amazing how many people they have values, but they confuse them with goals. First of all,
or wants. Usually, you'll see people when you ask values, they a lot of times will be adding in what they wanted from that last relationship.
Yeah,
I want honesty. I want integrity. I want loyalty. And you're like, you got cheated on, right? Well, yeah, I just don't want them to do that anymore. You're like, that's not a value. This is a fear. Let's go into what you value.
Yeah. But the second question that always catches them is, okay, but, and I always do it quite surreptitiously, because what I do is I ask them a bunch of questions about their life, about their day, about their habits, outcomes. Like we were saying just before we started the recording, what is the outcome of your behavior? So I don't care what you believe. I don't care how much you agree with me. I don't care how lovely you think I am, or how how hard you try at being a parent and how hard you work and all these things, because that sometimes people will spend 4 sessions telling you about all that. But when you actually pin down and you get all this information from them, you say, okay, so tell me where are you practicing this authenticity that you told me is your top value? Where, and then sometimes they can, sometimes they have but it's this and it's this, but actually they fall short, and what's interesting is when you combine values, you'll have someone, for example, that will have, let's say, privacy as a value, and then financial stability as a value, and authenticity. Now that trifecta of values creates a whole different behavior, a whole different outcome. And that's the thing that they don't understand. But most people don't practice their values daily.
Most don't even, because even those are all based on like, well, why is that important to you? Starts getting into what their real reason is, and it usually gets into safety or security. It's not necessarily I want privacy. Sure. It's just I don't want to feel violated, and so I want to feel safe.
Exactly.
Okay, so then safety is more important than privacy. Privacy is just one of the things you would have if you felt safe. And so being able to get down into like, what is the core to it? And so this is where even my coaches, when I'll bring people in and I'll go, see if you can find their values, and they'll drill them all the way down, and they'll go down, and they'll all have different answers. And I'll go, didn't you see? They said this, they said this, they said this. And I'll go and I'll say, your top 2 values are this and this. And the person will be like, that seems absolutely correct. I didn't even think about it that way. But all my people are like, they're like, how the fuck do you see this? I'm like, it's just one of my gifts. I don't know. But to get to somebody's real core values, you have to listen to the conversation, because people pepper the clues in. But if you're not aware of those, you're going to go down into something that may be your values. And to be able to do objective perspective is pretty tricky.
What we're talking about here, what you and I are talking about here, which is something that a lot of people, this is like the fish trying to explain to the bird what breathing water is like. I really believe this, and this is. I was quite humble about this a few years ago, but now I really believe this, that I think some of us have nurtured our intuition, and that's made it a powerful tool. And a lot of people can't do that. And that's why when you explain that kind of thing, like you just said, like, can't you see the values of this person? And they can't see it because they haven't nurtured their intuition.
You're at the core of pretty much most of the warrior's way. The reason that we train the way we train is because there's only two kinds of people, trained or untrained. It's just, do you know how to use it or not? This is how I beat anxiety. This is how we beat depression. This is how we beat addiction. Are you trained or untrained? Do your abilities control you, or do you control your abilities? It's the same thing with anger. It's the same thing with denial. It's awareness. We train all of these skills, which are skills, so that way you can go, I know how to handle this scenario, and it makes me more open to be able to accept, or even get into thinking to understand, or even empathetic to be able to not have judgment, which is generally a big reveal of our own wounds that we aren't even trying to heal. This deflection system. Yeah. So are you trained or untrained is the only thing that it is. And that's it. That was Denzel Washington, Man on Fire. You're either trained or untrained. That's it. That's the only two kind of people there are. And so which are you, trained or untrained? And competency just comes from practice. And so are we going to put reps in or what?
I love that.
That's it.
Exactly. I must point out, I'm glad you brought archetypes like Denzel and movies into it, because I was going to say earlier, the reason I was very keen to talk to you is because I really believe in the revival of masculinity in our society, and I'll say masculinity without defining it, because I'm not going to play into this whole toxic masculinity bullshit. That the society we live in, all the things that we're complaining about in society, are because men have been emasculated by the runaway laws and the runaway education system, and the overemphasis on not on women. So I'm not talking about women as people, as the other half of our species. I'm talking about the feminization traits of our society.
It's training. It's training still. And I'm gonna take a sentence away. Women and people aren't emasculating men. It's not happening to us. The answer is we are allowing them to emasculate. We have to accept. The reality is the people who are doing this can't kick your ass.
Yeah.
They can't, which means they can't force you to change your belief systems that you are not good enough. You have to accept it. Because this is where, when I hang out, I'm hanging out with alphas. These are all pack leaders. And I don't mean alphas that are toxic, like fucking smash the beer can and fuck everybody. No, I mean alphas who are like, I protect, I provide, I preside, I teach, I grow, I develop people. I make sure that my pack is as strong and trained as they can be. I look out for mine. I develop my other warriors to be as solid and stoic and controlled as they can be. And they have to have outlets, and we have to have healthy versions of handling shit. And that's what we got our boys for, because your pack can't handle some of that stuff. So in order to be a solid leader, you hang out with other solid leaders. These guys are not being emasculated. You can tell me all the judgments you have on me that you want. That guy's, I don't even know. Give me a toxic masculinity trait. I don't even know what you're talking about.
I really don't like Andrew Tate.
Okay.
I don't like him at all.
Well, here's the thing, is some of his things make sense. Like, it may be correct. It's the approach that he uses, or even the way that he handles things, that makes it off-putting. But if you can sit back and remove judgment and go, well, what's his point? There's validity in some of his messages, for sure.
Yeah, I mean, there's a reason he's popular.
Sure. He's got validity. Now, do I agree with his behaviors? Well, no, not all of his behaviors would match what I believe is right, where on one end, he's talking about being a solid, confident, masculine man, but on the other end, he's going out during, to Stockholm and trying to fuck every bitch in the city. So you're like, well, I don't think, I'm out clubbing all day and doing that shit. That's not my guy. Okay, fair enough. Do some of his traits that he's trying to do for, like, work on your success and get your shit together and hold your ground and be confident in yourself. Those things, okay, fair enough. Sure. Is hypergamy a thing? It is a thing. And it's actually not supposed to be as toxic as it is. Women have to have a system for choosing a valuable mate. It's equal and up. Do you know your worth? Yeah. So hypergamy is designed to make it so we have healthy children. It's not a toxic thing. It's just being treated toxically when you do like that one lady you just said who chooses a mate based on 666, which is the sign of the beast to begin with. 6 figure, 6-pack, and what's the other one? 6 foot tall. They're like, that's the standard. These dudes are like, thought about it that way. These dudes are destroying this stupid ass, opinion that they have that this is what a good man is, because those are all very surface level. So these guys, all of a sudden, who are the chosen ones, are like 6 figure, 6-pack, and 6 foot. Now it's like going to Costco and getting endless, like unlimited free samples. You can have as many free samples as you like. You can have all of the samples of everything that you want for free. And these women are wondering, why is this guy not committing? It's like, I don't have to spend any money. You guys are just giving it away because you're using this superficial standard that I happen to match up to. So I just get everything for free. And you're wondering why I'm having a commitment issue with you.
And then the problem is that for the guy, him getting everything he wants all the time is also tragically misleading.
Gonna screw them all up, because how is he gonna know what love is? And then on the other hand, too, the lady who's gonna be with him has been like, you've been with 500 women? What the? Statistically, you should have like 19 diseases.
Probably does.
You know what I mean? It's like, well, what are we running into now? Is that really a high value man, or this was a guy who happened to meet a social standard that was bullshit to begin with, but get to just benefit from it? So, okay, so I'm going to swing it back. I'm with you. Andrew Tate, I'm not totally against some of his messages, but I definitely don't like his approach. Like, that's not my style. So I've seen some of his stuff. I'm like, fair enough. There's another guy, the guy who just passed away. It's a black guy.
Kevin Samuels.
His stuff too, like, his approach was like, boom, but some of it was accurate. I'm like, well, he's not wrong. It's just a really tough approach. But he was going for shock value, which did get him the popularity he wanted. So some of it was like, he's right.
That's the point.
He's right, but he's trying to do that shock value at the same time. And so he's an entertainer at the same time of it. So these guys who lean more towards entertainment than they do practicality, there is that disconnect for me also. But if I remove judgment, and I remove the same thing with this emasculation, if I remove people's judgments and just listen to what it is without a cadence and without anything that would make me feel like, oh, well, I think they're a piece of shit because, like, remove all that. Remove blame, shame, judgment, remove all of that. What are they saying? Does it make any sense to you or not? Does it challenge your belief system or does it not? Is it valuable to you or not? Is it a perspective that you can understand and be empathetic towards, but then not follow? That's fine too. I think that people forgot that it's just fine to disagree. That's okay.
Exactly. Yeah, I agree.
So I can listen to Andrew Tate and go like, all right, well, that's not a message I really agree with. But then I can listen to him again and go, oh, I agree with him on that one.
Let's put a spanner in the works here.
Sure.
So we got Andrew Tate, we got Kevin Samuels. You know the movie that just came out, The Sound of Freedom?
I heard about it. I haven't seen this. My girl was just talking about it today, but I haven't seen it.
I haven't seen it, but I've seen the interviews with the guy that it's about. You have to.
Everyone keeps saying it. Maybe I have to a little bit.
So maybe, but to who's listening, they'll understand what I'm saying. Tim Ballard, who the movie's about, and he's very much part of all the publicity and everything, is an example, as far as I'm concerned, of what masculinity can be in the world, what it can achieve, where you've got someone who's providing for his family. He's got 9 kids. This guy, he's got 9 kids. He was in the it was either the FBI or it was, I don't know which division of the government for many years. So he did his duty. You talked about doing reps. Okay. He did his reps. Okay. He paid his dues. until the organization would not support his values in this new scenario where he was finding kids in South America that were being abused, but he didn't have permission to take them. The purpose of finding them was to track down the consumers of child porn in America. Okay. So what did he do? He resigned. He resigned from his position. He was this close to pension and he resigned from his position. Now, when I watch someone like Tim Ballard, that is an example of a man that's driven by values. He benefits his society. He brings exponential goodness into the world. Exponential. I mean, you can't even, you think that one man, this is why people don't believe him. A lot of the media have tried to sully his image because they cannot grasp that one man did all of this. So now in context, Andrew Tate, what has Andrew Tate done? He's got rich, yeah, but who does he benefit? He benefits a bunch of 16-year-old kids in their basement watching porn. That's who he benefits, So I agree with you that I think there are some things that he says that are correct, because a lot of what he says, unfortunately, are based on snippets of evolutionary psychology and evolutionary development, which is correct. That is correct. So there's some harsh truths that the current sort of media want to ignore. The postmodernist culture that we're in at the moment, they want to ignore that. They want us all to be blank slates and we can all be recreated, in the image of something else, like the great future robots that will become, So that's why their statements are so shocking, because those guys are not stupid, but I would say that they are my basic problem with them is they are actually narcissists, and narcissists consume and they are eventually consumed. So that's the problem. So if we use those guys as role models for younger men, you're leading them down the wrong path. That's what worries me.
We get into, again, like judgments and what is right over who is right. And right now we listen to this news, like you said that this guy did what you believe is right. The Tim guy, you said, like, he did what I believe is right. But then you're going to have people who say, well, we're going to be the authority on what is right based on our opinion. And this makes it so then people will now have points of view from an authority telling you what you're supposed to think versus being able to assess objectively. This makes it so, like, I've had really tough conversations with people who are polarized. And I believe that polarizing is really, really tricky, because people are creating a belief system around emotions that dictate truth. This is a dangerous game, because we live and die by our belief systems, but we don't have the tools inside of ourselves to truly challenge authenticity. We just go, I like it, and you agree, we're right. Like, well, right about what? And where did it come from? And is it really true? And have you checked your belief system to find, is it authentic, or you just don't want to challenge it any further, creating a system of judgments, which is meant to put other people down. Remember, judgment is designed to change. I don't like that shirt. You're like, you don't like this shirt? I'm like, that shirt makes you look stupid. You're like, oh, that's all right. Weird, man. Okay. But you're like, I'm still going to wear it today. But then later you look in the mirror and I'm like, oh, does it though? What the fuck? Like it just may even drop a drop of doubt in there. Just a little bit, just a little.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
And then you start going in there, and then like you'll start going like, I don't, maybe I just won't wear that again next time. Next time I'll wear a different shirt. And then you'll come on a different shirt and I'll be like, that shirt's really cool. And you'll be like, maybe that other shirt, because he's praising now, maybe that other shirt really was a bad shirt. So now I won't wear that shirt anymore. This is just two judgments I did. One praise and one shame. Like, one to put it down.
It devalues the shirt immediately, yeah.
All I did was give a shitty fucking opinion. That was just me just judging. But that judgment now has created a change in your behavior because you want to feel approval, which is it's a human natural thing. We're social creatures. We want to have approval. And if somebody who has confidence and boisterous or strong or has a big presence can give you praise or shame you into something to change yourself, we will. Especially if you're still in an evolutionary state, like a teenager. If you're still like, I'm still evolving right now, I'm still changing right now. And if somebody goes, those shoes suck, or like, those are good shoes, you'll change. And so judgment is meant to change. And so let's look at emasculation. Let's look at, well, that guy's bad because the news said so. Well, who is right or what is right? We have to get into this.
Objectively.
Correct. The objective perspective needs to be trained. And so what kind of people can be able to do this? There's only two kinds of people. You're either trained or you're not trained. You either can do this skill or you don't have this skill. And they even showed during COVID that more than 50% of the population does not have this skill. There will be no questions. I will just do what I am told. There's no critical thinking that's going to happen. Exactly. You said so, I just do that. No questions. So then when these judgments start coming in, what are you seeing? Like, as I see, this is people who are wounded. I see people who are not okay because judgments is generally showing I don't have acceptance. And people who are trying to preach inclusion are doing it by hating. What an interesting system.
Absolutely.
What an interesting system. In order to get the minorities together, we have to hate a different group. Whoa. I thought inclusion was the thing. How did it turn into exclusion?
Yeah. You said something interesting about, if I can just quickly catch something you said, which was so interesting. I want to zero in on it. And then we need to talk about inclusion and exclusion, because I'm from South Africa. I live in Sweden now, but I'm from South Africa, and I can tell you a lot about exclusion. But the thing you said about shame in adolescence, and I don't know, Rick, I'm like, in this conversation with you, I'm thinking, I keep coming back to the young men that might listen to this, I suppose because we're both men anyway. So I'm imagining that the kind of men out there that are lost, the kind of young men that are lacking role models are gonna listen to this, because they're desperate for content, which is why Jordan Peterson is so popular, is because they're just desperate for a man to speak to them, And I want to point out something, that the reason why people like Tate and Samuels are successful with young men, one of the reasons, there's other reasons, like I said, the fact that they do pick truths out of evolutionary theory and blurt them out to people that have never heard this stuff before. Those things are correct. And in the sense that they publicize those things, I think that's probably a good thing, because the society needs to hear that. But there's a mechanism, your behavior has a function, okay, even if your behavior is irrational. And this is what's so confusing about when people come to counseling. This is why they don't realize that counseling can help them, because they think they're rational. And I've got to spend a lot of time convincing them that a lot of their behavior is irrational. Okay, so let's just focus on one thing that you kind of said, but I want to just highlight it, is that the young men that are following people like Tate and Samuels are being relieved of the shame of toxic masculinity by those two pivotal figures, okay? And then so in other words, it has a function. Their behavior following men like that is not necessarily someone that they would be friends with, that they would bring to their home to introduce to their mother or something. There's a function in that they are relieved from the shame of maybe they watch too much porn, maybe they feel they're not successful enough, maybe whatever it is, okay? So there's a mechanism involved there, and then I just wanted to make that point, because there's a function there.
Yeah, I'm with you on the behavior has a function and people are doing a thing. I actually, listen, let's go in as healthy guys. I'm going to help our young guys. Let's go in. I am not affected by whatever this toxic masculinity judgment is. So I'm Googling it now. I'm like, all right, Vincent, what are you talking about? If these kids are under assault and they're being told that they're bad for being what they are, this is a shame stack. Yeah. And there's no other perspective because there's no healthy men in their life. Fair enough. We're trained by a role model who may not be qualified to train because they're trained by people who weren't qualified to train. We're all just doing our damn best. It doesn't mean good. So I'm like, what are you talking? What is toxic masculinity? Because it sounds like it's a judgment to begin with. So if we're operating under judgments, this automatically means I'm trying to change you. But then I would go, all right, well, what is it? And change me into what before I even agree? So let's look. All right, it's a certain set of male behaviors associated with harm to society and men themselves. Stereotypical aspects of traditional masculinity, such as social dominance, misogyny, and homophobia, can be considered toxic due to their part in promoting violence. I've seen women do social dominance and homophobia also.
Yeah,
so I don't know if that's toxic masculinity. This is where now it gets subjective, where like, is it a human behavior or is it just the male behavior? I'm kind of confused.
It's a basket of antisocial behavior that they've lumped together with something that's innate. Masculinity is innate. So your toxic behavior is not innate.
Yeah. We're promoting violence, sexual assault, domestic violence. These are promoting. I haven't seen a single promotion for domestic violence. Is there like a ad that I missed? I haven't seen it yet. I'm trying to understand, like, where are we going? Like, hey, we're getting the domestic violence group together. Everybody get your shirt on.
Yeah.
You know, like, I don't know. I haven't seen any of these groups, or maybe I'm just not invited.
You obviously haven't attended the latest meeting of the patriarchy.
I missed it.
You missed it. Oh,
listen,
I'll send you the invite.
I work with men globally, and I don't know why I'm not getting this invite. Maybe I got to level up or something. I'm missing something. I don't know. All right. Socialization of boys often normalizes violence, such as saying boys will be boys about bullying and aggression. So almost like we're going to go ahead and dismiss. We're going to deflection again. So we're deflecting that something bad is bad by calling it is what it is. This is a denial system, which we only got halfway through, even just what the system even is. So, okay. So the entire system so far I'm seeing is a judgment based on judgments that we are normalizing by calling it no big deal. So far, that's where I'm at. I'm like, okay, let's see what's happening with it. Self-reliance and emotional repression are correlated with increased psychological problems in men, such as depression, increased stress, substance use disorders. Okay, so self-reliance and emotional repression. So this goes into the system that we're using for denial. This is all denial to distractions. This means repressing or suppressing all of your emotions will lead to depression, volcanoing, or even substance abuse, which is the distraction to feel good. Okay, that's human, but it's also showing this isn't toxic masculinity. This is guys being shamed into suppression. I don't think that that's the same. Toxic masculine traits are characteristics of unspoken code of behavior among men in prisons, where they exist as a response to harsh conditions of prison life.
Can I just repeat what you just said there? Because that's beautiful. This is guys being shamed into suppression.
Correct.
That's a very, very, and it's amazing how fast I hope people are watching the video of this, because your face during that when you discovered toxic masculinity on the screen there is perfect. And it represents exactly how most men feel when they hear that term.
Let's try. Let's see if it's right. I'm still so far. I don't know where this prison thing jumped in, because it seems like a big jump from we just jumped from emotional repression to prison life, and so I'm like, are we talking about people who have been incarcerated? Or are we talking about just men in general? I'm trying to understand where toxic masculinity trait are characteristics of unspoken code of behavior amongst men in prisons. I never went to prison, so am I doing it or am I not doing it? Or if I didn't go to prison, I don't have it, so am I good? So I just have to worry about guys who went to prison, because then
the feminists would say you haven't been to prison yet.
Oh, I'm on my way. Just
because you haven't been caught.
I think we could just put yet in front of everybody's thing so far.
Exactly.
Yet. Exactly, yeah. Oh, well, I haven't hurt anybody yet. Like, we can just say yet to everybody and anything.
But can we just point, because I wanted to say this earlier as well, can we just point out there at that point, I'm glad they mentioned prison, because one of the things for men especially is actually understanding that you do have the capacity to do the stuff that men go to prison for.
Everyone does.
It comes back to the reps that you were talking about. I mean, I love that. I'm going to use that now.
Yeah.
Men we live within a rule-based system. Men, women, I'm not a woman. I don't understand. Okay. I'm telling you about men. Men need rules. We need hierarchies. We need goals. We need ambitions.
We do well with it too. It works really well.
And we do well. Exactly. And the thing is and I know Jordan Peterson says this, but what's wonderful actually about the modern world, as opposed to the kind of crap that you hear from Tate and Samuels, there are things that are wonderful about the modern world, that yes, you can actually be an excellent gamer. Okay.
Yeah.
Yes, you can actually, because you know what that means is when you go out on the weekend, you can tell your friends, I challenged this one player overseas and I beat him this weekend. And actually your friends will be impressed.
It is a skill.
I'm so impressed by guys that are good at gaming because it's a skill.
It is a skill.
But that doesn't mean the catch comes in. Okay. But between us and the men that are listening, the catch comes in is how do you translate those skills to the real world? That's where they need men like us to show them that you can't. I was a big gamer a few years ago.
Sure.
I did it for a while. I got good at it, and then I stopped.
I still like gaming. I still play games at night. I love it.
There's nothing wrong with it.
I still love it.
So the whole gaming thing, all the research on whether games make you an aggressive person or anything has eventually proven that that's rubbish. Okay, so there's nothing wrong with gaming.
If anything, if used in a healthy way, it's a positive outlet.
Exactly.
Correct.
Same as the internet. If you use the internet to watch 6 hours of porn a day, you're going to be in trouble. But if you use the internet to do what you and I are doing right now, that's a totally different thing.
Yeah. This is moderation in general. Anything in moderation can be more beneficial. So but even still, if you're at a level where you're competing internationally in video gaming, there's a huge call for this.
Big ups
whether
to you,
it be
dude. Yeah.
Call of Duty, League of Legends, StarCraft 2. It doesn't matter what you're doing. They've got an audience for it, and these are superstars. And they are in that world. They are superstars. Now, what's their social capability? I don't know, because there's a lot of isolation. But they're also on headsets, and I'm connecting with you right now, and you're in Europe, and I'm in America. And we can still have this awesome back and forth. So technically, we're using technology the same as they do. They're just doing another activity.
Exactly.
So we're playing mental tennis right now and just having an awesome, awesome game. So we're also doing our own version of, this is our game.
Exactly.
And what's more beneficial? We're all developing and sharpening tools to improve a skill. So who's right and who's wrong? No, we're just doing things that we love and we're pretty fucking good at it.
So the truth is there's multiple ways. I mean, that gaming was just an example. But whereas if you were born 2,000 years ago into a tribe in the middle of nowhere somewhere, you would only have 2 or 3 ways to get the attention of the girl in the village. Okay. Now, and I'm going to speak to the guys listening. Guys, there are hundreds of ways that you can achieve some status and get the attention of a potential mate in the future.
Well, this is where it gets into a really difficult thing, because it gets into what actually attracts a potential mate, and I've talked to my men and I talked to my women on this one. And what women want is all over the board. The reality is women don't actually know what they want, because I've done this. I've done it. And I'm like, ladies, I even made the whole Prince Charming list. And it's like over 70 things that women say they want, but never choose a dude who's actually like this. And even if they did have this guy, they never really assess their value to know what they would bring to that guy's life to be chosen. So women don't actually know what they want. And it's a very complicated system. My heart goes out to the ladies, because they're taught the Disney princess bullshit that you're supposed to just be loved for who you are without any new values that you bring, just love you for who you are. But if you want a man who has high values, not high value as far as status and money, high values, honor, loyalty, respect. He has a high set of values that he operates himself under for integrity and morality and faith. This guy has his shit together.
And he practices them.
And he does them, yes. If he really lives this life, at some point you have to have an assessment of what value do I bring to a man who has this many values. And this is why hypergamy does play a role. That's why society is so complicated for girls, is because, and I've got other podcasts that I went through the list. I think it was with Miriam Belcher. I went through the whole list. So if anybody wants to hear what's the list, we went through the whole list for this is what men wanted. This is what women wanted. This is the surveys for hundreds and hundreds of people. Feel free to add. So I went through all of these. It's a really tough game when people think you have to have money to get a mate. No, stability, safety, security, that's one aspect of things. You want to here's a fun one. Girls, this is where it gets really tricky for both guys and girls. Value for burden of beauty and burden of performance it's an unfair scale, and there's only one small parallel, maybe for a short time. Reality is, from our teenage years, the rules change. This is the Chris Rock thing. Boys are loved for being boys, but they're in teenage years with transitions from being loved for what you are or who you are to loved for what you do or what you provide. That's the change. And I didn't know this. I got my ass kicked by this one, and a lot of guys did, where they're like, could you imagine going on a date and going, hey, first date, I've already picked a place we're going to live. I can't wait to have a life together. And they're like, whoa, what are you doing? It's like, I'm just going to assume you're going to love me for who I am.
Some of us did that. Some of us did that.
Boom! Bulldozed, destroyed. Because
I had my own place at 16. And when I went on a date, I ended up dating the same person for 7 years. But on that date, I said to her, I've got my own place. I've got a job. I look after myself. And she was like,
well, that's your resume. That's like, this is my values that I brought to the table. You didn't come to the table and go, love me for who I am. You went, I've got my own place. I got my own job. I got my own car. I got my own independence. I've got my own. That was your resume. That's what value do you bring?
Yeah.
That doesn't matter what car I have, what house I have, where I live, what I do, what my goals are, what my ambition is. Doesn't matter any of that. Love me for who I am. Well, you won't get a second date. You knew even at 16, my value is not love me for who I am. My value is look what I've got and I can provide.
Yeah.
Boys learn this. This is the transition. All right. So we're going back. The women are taught love me for who I am. And oftentimes when I say, well, what do you bring to the table? It's met most commonly. You want to know the most common answer? That's the most common answer. So like, I'm sitting here going like, what is it that like you're supposed to bring? And so when we got on those conversations for what are guys looking for, it's not, does she have a higher degree than me for education? It's not how much money does she make? Because you imagine going on a date with a lady and going, how much money do you make? And how much of that do I get?
Imagine the look.
Yeah. How much money of yours do I get if we're together? You know, but women can go to guys and go like, how much do you make? And be looking at like safety, security, provision, provide that you're going to provide a life or vacations or whatever lifestyle. Like, okay, I see opportunity here. But if a guy goes like, all right, so here's what I provide. How much are you adding to the pot? Let's go ahead and combine these together, 50-50. Boom. They're going, no. Because what is theirs is not ours, but what's ours is going to be theirs.
Yeah.
So we have a different thing. What do we provide? We learn that very, very quickly. This gets really, really tricky when we start going, what makes somebody attracted to another person? What makes it so that a guy's supposed to go, here's how I raise my value to a mate, because it does turn into what we provide. So let's go into the thing. When we're young, women have beauty to start off with, natural beauty. Around their teenage years, they start shifting into women and that youthful beauty. That's the beauty and the beast. They got beauty, advantage. Well, what's a man's status? Well, we're fucking boys. We got nothing. We're in fucking school. Like, I got nothing. Yeah. You were lucky at 16. You started putting in some work and getting some accomplishments going. Most guys don't even get to start building their status until after college.
Well, I just so no one thinks, just to be fair, the reason I had my own place was not good fortune. It was misfortune. I was actually left to live alone by my father. My mother was in hospital. I never recovered fully. And my father left. So my father was like, you look like a man. I'm leaving. Damn. My father was very old school. Okay.
I don't know if that's old school. What old school?
I could say, I could state I had my own place and I had my own income, but it was mostly because my situation was actually really bad.
It was a really messed up inheritance.
But it worked out fine, because the person that I ended up dating for 7 years was older than me anyway.
Which was almost like finding a mother figure to replace in a weird way. So that's a different thing. But just being 16 and abandoned by both parents, whether it's deliberate or not deliberate, it's still a lot to handle.
Yeah, it was.
Yeah. And so there's a lot of damage in there that would be like, damn, bro, like, oh, that hurt my heart a little. Like, man, 16-year-old kid just thrown out, and you're like trying to make it in the world by showing, check out what I've got, which really is kind of like, I have all these things because like my stuff is good. This is the status. My status became good, but my heart is destroyed.
Exactly.
And the humanity of it isn't actually applied because she's not asking you questions about your heart. They're looking shifting into like, what is the lifestyle going to be like? So let's go back though. All right. Women, youthful, beauty, burden of beauty, huge advantage on most guys. They don't have any career. There's no status. They don't have money yet. They're still building their education to be able to get whatever position or start a business or have a job or whatever the thing is going to be. I'm going to be something. So at that point, the beauty is choosing on a man's potential. He's going to be a doctor. He's going to be a musician. He's going to be a something. Like, so it's based on potential. Well, as guys have to raise our value, we have to, and women will have their burden of beauty. At some point, as we raise our value up, probably around our year 30, we're like, all right, our value is finally at the level of your beauty. We have finally earned, like we have earned our status.
30.
We've earned our shit. Right around like our 30s is where like, all right, we're at the same level. We got a family going. Things are going good. Everything is balanced out. Well, guys will keep pursuing progress. So they're going to keep raising their values, learning more, moving up in the company, creating bigger things. Well, beauty depreciates. And so beauty starts to go down as they get older. So now a man's status is higher and a woman's beauty is lower. Well, this is going to start creating a level of dissonance, and this will start creating an issue in the relationship because now the main value or main resource that she was operating under is no longer there, but his value is much higher. And so now it's a different game. And now you're watching guys really struggle because like she's going to start creating all these issues because she's no longer happy within herself and doesn't understand why. She's no longer bringing what used to be her main resource for value is now turned into a negative. And so her identity has been completely shifted. And now he's got all this opportunity that he never had before.
Yep.
He's moved his status up, is not just in finances. I'm talking about like his growth, his evolution. I've learned more. I'm wiser. I'm calmer. I'm more patient. I'm stoic. I have evolved. And she's like, I feel like I'm getting worse. My burden of beauty is gone. And she's got only what burden of performance? We're not even operating under like, what do you bring to the table anymore? Because now we're freaking out. And so this is where it shifts. When girls are younger, they have the advantage and guys have a disadvantage. This is why teenage years are so fucking brutal for dating. But then when it hits that 30, you get to a certain point, you're balanced out, good life, balanced out. But it's going to shift and go the other way. If the guy keeps pursuing, burden of beauty will start to fade. Why do you think plastic surgery blew up? And why do you think all these options to try and augment myself to try to keep up are there? This is tough. But what is that? It's a curse that's got a shame system built in because I'm not happy with who I am. I need to change it to be something that I like
feeds
better.
off shame. Yeah.
Well, then what kind of, like, this is where there's a lot of, even in the augmentation world, when you get in a plastic surgery world, there's a high suicide rate in that area because of how much they don't like who they are.
I've never heard that before, actually. I didn't know that,
It's a big thing.
Doesn't surprise me.
Working with women, like women will look up this stuff, but there is a higher suicide rate in that area for women who have a lot of plastic surgery because there is a reason it's there is because I don't like who I am. I need to change it.
That's sad.
It's tough. Well, it's a tough thing when burden of beauty is your main resource for how you choose a mate. What happens when your main resource for value is depreciating? That's tough.
If you're I mean, I know you're still breaking it down, but if you're choosing your mate, and this is both sides. So if you're the man, like look at Leonardo DiCaprio now. He's like in his 60s or something, and he's dating women that are in their 20s, and I'm like, good for him.
We got options,
and good for them. Good for the girl as well. If she thinks she's going to have a good time.
Well, he's top 1%, so whatever she's getting from that is going to be whatever travel, safety, security. It's going to be whatever. If he's putting his resources or his status or her whatever towards a girl who's in her 20s, well, she's using her high value beauty to get a guy who's got high status or high achievement or high fame or high, money, power, fame? Like those are high things for like people who operate under a superficial value system. Yeah. It makes perfect sense.
I like what you said earlier about the 666, and I would just add maybe another 6 because it's.
Well, I think there's other ones too. I think like 6 inches and like penis or something like that. There's other there's other ones. What's another 6 you would add?
My 6 would be 6 months because it wears off. The guy.
No. We got to keep it superficial as hell. We can't add anything real to it. Don't do that. Don't
exactly.
do that.
exactly.
You're going to fuck up the whole thing. You're going to add real value. We don't want to do that.
Yeah.
It's a tough game. If we're doing traditional, like this, well, not traditional, but this modern measurement system of instant gratification plus value equals wants instead of needs, which we don't actually address. I just want a guy who's got all this great stuff. I actually just talked to a girl recently who married for money, and she was like, I'm miserable. We have a loveless marriage, but we have all of the things I wanted for my wish list. I wanted finances. I wanted riches. I wanted the big house. I wanted all of the stuff. I wanted stuff. But now that I have the stuff, I'm missing connection, and intimacy, and love, and being valued, and being able to spend quality time together. I don't have any of that. It's like, you got your wish, though. And this is where people aren't assessing their wishes. People think I want more money because money will bring me happiness. I work with millionaires who are like, the money isn't giving me as much happiness as I needed because my love life is total shit and I don't know how to connect with my kids. I'm like, give them some fucking money. How's that working? You're like, it doesn't.
Interesting. It's an interesting little like thought exercise. If you think about it, like they thought they had the answer to the question. I'm going to get money. Okay. But they didn't actually understand what the question is. What is the question?
What's the wish? There's a few movies out on this, and there's a lot of stories on this. Anything involving a jinn or a genie.
Yeah, exactly.
Almost every story involving a jinn or genie is a tragedy. Aside from the turning it into the Aladdin cartoon version.
Yeah.
Most stories, when you get wishes, ends up going bad. They even have like the Wish Master, where it's a jinn who turns your wishes into some bullshit. But a lot of times, people aren't really processing what happens if your wish came true. A lot of times people want something, but there's a country song, one of God's greatest gifts are unanswered prayers. Sometimes what you think you want is not what you need. And that's, Rolling Stones even said it. You can't always get what you want, but you get what you need. So it's one of those things where we see people going like, money's the thing. And like the genie's like, make your wish. And he's like, I want $1 million. And he's like, here's 1 million deer. And you're like, oh shit. No, I don't want a bunch of deer. You said you wanted $1 million. Here you go. You're like, no. Like, we're making our wishes and then we get exactly what we wish for. And then it's like, oh my God, that blew up in my face. I wanted the money. I wanted money. Money and numbers follow. They don't lead. Good behavior, being a solid person, be a good man, have high standards and values and boundaries for yourself, which will go under respect, which people can't even fucking define for me, which I'm happy to do. Like, people are living a life where they're just running off of impulse and instant gratification without challenging anything, which is why the Warrior's Way says you have to challenge everything. Challenge me to see if I have competency. Just because I have a drawer, or actually, it's a storage bin full of plaques and certifications, doesn't mean shit. Can I actually do the job, or does it just look shiny?
Yes, I love that.
So we got to go in. At some point, we need to challenge everything to see, does it work or does it not work? And people who do not have training for cognitive awareness or any type of skills for self-awareness or training in any way are just operating with no critical thinking skills. They just do what they're told, and it falls under the lemming aspect. I just do what I'm told. And people are starting to fight back because I'm looking at this toxic masculinity thing. If this thing is any part of somebody's belief system, I don't see a happy person here. In fact, the person writing this, I can just feel how unhappy this person is because they speak in judgments.
If that's your worldview, can you imagine? But the reason why we must just, like, for the people that are listening, we must just remember this is important, is because the people that are educating your children are educated in toxic masculinity and all the other garbage that comes with the postmodernist kind of Marxist paradigm, okay? Because the people that developed that toxic masculinity were actually men, many in the 70s, I think the late 70s, and what they were trying to do was, if you look at what they were trying to do, now in retrospect we can see what they were doing. They were actually trying to increase their status in society. on the backs of other men. Okay, so when you hear if you hear a man use the term toxic masculinity, you need to call him out and you need to say, what do you gain by vilifying other men?
Challenge.
Yeah, exactly.
What are you going to gain by vilifying other men? What do you gain from this?
Exactly.
And if you're doing, and this is fighting, it's almost how women bully, is reputation demolition.
Yes.
If you start going and I'm going to demolish your reputation by creating straw man arguments about you.
System.
And so I'm going to make you weaker so that I can get more opportunities. It doesn't actually work though, because that's not what a man does. A real man builds. A real man is not worried about if my partner, if you're my brother, I'm not making you weaker than me so I get more. There's plenty for all of us. There's an abundance out there, but if I'm trying to make it so I have all and you have scarcity, I am not a leader. I am not a real man. This is still boy mentality. Boys conquest and take, and I'm going to get mine. I'm going to get,
yes.
take. Men protect, men build, men raise all ships, men work together. And if anybody thinks that you're supposed to go it alone, all of our guys in the Warrior's Way, we fight together. Shit, there's King Solomon. I'm going Bible on this one. Let's go. And there's
I'm going to throw in something there.
Yeah, what do you got?
The thing that you see, the distinction between, as I said, this feminized system versus the masculine system.
Sure.
Your and I don't know your model very well, but the bits that I've heard and the podcast that I've listened to, they demonstrate, that's why I was very happy to talk to you, because they demonstrate what is a masculine way is that we take men with us.
Yes.
That's why you said respect and leadership, okay? The only way we get respect and we attain leadership is if we lead other men, to a better way, okay? But that means we're also aware that there's other men that are leading as well. So the fundamental misunderstanding, it's the feminization of the culture, which is that we will take from your status to get our own status. Men don't do that.
But if you're using judgment, it's not feminizing at this case. It's using masculine against itself to make it so, guys, this is important. It's very important to understand this. The judgments don't work unless you agree. It's very important. If you do not have awareness and training, you can call me any name you want. You can literally go to the website and pick an emasculating trait. It doesn't matter until I agree. And then I start to change myself. Like when I said the shirt thing, that shirt is just a shirt. I'm giving an opinion about a shirt, and you then create a belief system around an opinion or information given, whether you agree or disagree. Until you go, oh shit, maybe you're right, this shirt may not be good. Well, then it changes the whole thing. But if you go like, yeah, well, you don't have to like this shirt. I'm wearing it for me, not you. So I don't care. Then that shirt is just a shirt.
Look how that conversation would have gone. Okay, imagine if you'd said that to me. Imagine if I came on the podcast today.
Vincent, hit me with anything you can think of. I'll take it. No,
I'm going to break it down into like what we were talking about earlier, the outcomes. Okay, the actual outcomes of behavior and of ideas. And here's an example of a masculine arrangement that exists between men. It exists. It's not something we need to still do.
Right.
It exists as we speak. If you'd come on the screen and you'd say, "Jeepers, that floral green and blue and pink floral shirt that you're wearing is really going to clash with my whole aesthetic. Would you mind changing it?" Okay. And I'd gone, "Oh, well, it's my favorite shirt and now I'm offended. Now I don't want to talk to you anymore." Okay. Well, that shows that I don't have the resilience that it takes to do this podcast in the first place. Okay. On the other hand, if I'd said to you, if I had some ego strength and resilience, I would have said to you, "Wow, okay, what do you suggest?" Okay, because maybe I've come to this podcast because I respect you and I'm prepared to say to you, which men do this all the time. Can I keep repeating that? Mm-hmm. We do this all the time. We don't need women to tell us how to behave. No. We do this all the time with each other. And I would have said to you, "Rick, you know what? You look really smart. Do you think I should go put on a dark blue shirt," which I just happen to be wearing anyway? So everyone that's listening, this isn't actually what happened. This just happens that we're both
we emailed to wear your blue button up.
Yeah. We coordinated. So But I would have said to you, what do you think I should wear? And you would have said, well, look, it would look really good if you wear this, and then we present a strong image, and that's really good for us. Cool. I agree with you. I go and I change. No harm done.
Yeah.
It's over. We carry on.
I'd go the other way with the guys on this one. If you were wearing a green shirt with flowers, I'd be like, that's a kick-ass shirt, bro. Your confidence is off the charts.
Yeah, I mean, I'm using a silly example,
But this is where I also, on a healthy side over here, going like, hey, man, you must be confident as fuck. I can't wait to hear about what, like, your points of view are.
You see?
This is where I can be healthy with you. I don't have to run in with judgments because I'm like, wow, I'm even, assuming your confidence because you're wearing something boisterous. I'm like, well, I'm very interested to see if it lines up.
That's a good point. Exactly. Exactly.
Maybe it's false persona. Maybe it's a denial system you're running in where I'm wearing a costume so I'm perceived as confident to mask the fact that I'm not. I'll know when we're talking.
Your curiosity, your genuine curiosity, is you have the capacity for genuine curiosity because you have ego strength.
Correct.
Okay. And I'm talking about benevolent ego, obviously. You have that. Why? Because you've done the work. Right. You've done the work on yourself. You've done the reps, as you like to say, and that is critical. Correct. And that's why a man can actually go away for 2 days and live in 2 years and live in isolation, because that's what he's doing. He's going to go and work on his own ego. He's going to get good at something, even if it's running or jogging or canoeing or whatever it is, whatever that skill is. And he's going to come back into the community.
But there's a faster way. There's a faster way.
I'm
going back to Proverbs. I'm bringing Solomon into it.
Go for it. Yeah.
So, Proverbs 24, 5, and 6. And this is NLT. I know that it's translated different in other Bibles. This one, I just happen to like this version of it. The wise are mightier than the strong, and those with knowledge grow stronger and stronger. So don't go to war without wise guidance. Victory depends on having many advisors. When I use this in the warrior's way, if you're going to go into a battle in your mind, or you and your wife are going to have a tough conversation, run it through the advisors. Together, we are always stronger. And if you're sitting there with 20 different alphas, let's just do average age, I don't know, between 30 to 40. Here you are with hundreds of years of information at your fingertips that you can run through the perspective system, gather hundreds of years of info within minutes, and then go have a conversation or work on whatever it is that you have to battle. But I don't care what comes up inside of you. If you're with my warriors and we're locking shields and you're having a doubtful day, I don't know if I'm good enough. I don't know if I can do this. Maybe my idea is stupid, or maybe this isn't the right shirt for this. I don't care how doubt is coming. I will lock shields with you and show you how to whoop his ass. It's not that tough. Well, yeah. I'll beat it real quick. Are you having a fear day and you're running into anxiety because you've created all the things that can go wrong? Let's lock shields and let's face fear together. I'll show you how he's beaten. He's not that tough, but you know how he works. You're having a day where anger is built up. Well, let's sort out what thing is happening to trigger it so we can understand what system you're operating under to protect yourself. Because if you understand what it is, we don't have to protect. We have to understand, accept, find honor, meaning, growth. Could be empathy. There's something you don't know, but we're trying to protect ourselves from it. What is it? Let's find it so we don't have to overcompensate anymore. I'll lock shields. Together, all men are stronger. Vincent, when it comes to men's groups, who is our competition? Which guy is that's the biggest competition for men's groups? Who's our biggest competition?
In what sense? What do you mean?
Working with the most men, and he's working with all the men, and he's getting all the publicity or the glory or he's getting the biggest conventions. Who's the biggest competition?
Well, I mean, you've got men who influence the culture, and then you've got men who actually work with men.
Sure. Let's just go with men who work with men. Who's the biggest competition? Is it Garrett White? Is it David Mueller? Who's the biggest competition?
Well, that's funny. I actually don't know those names. You see?
Okay. Who's your biggest ones?
So, okay, maybe it's because I've got a very niche kind of interest.
If you don't have an answer for this, it's totally fine.
No. I haven't answered. So, well, I just asked myself, who would I pay to attend a group with?
Not the same,
Okay.
because that's who would you want to learn from. Who do you view as competition? In the sphere of working with men and helping men, who do you view as competition?
Okay, that's an interesting. Okay, so first of all, the answer to my question would have been Warren Farrell. I don't know if you know Warren Farrell.
I don't.
Okay, Warren Farrell does he does a lot of stuff with groups, but he wrote 2 books on men, and I think the one was called The Boy Crisis.
See it? Yeah. Oh yeah. Okay, now I know what you're talking about. I've seen him before. Okay.
Yeah. So Warren Farrell to me is like that was the question I asked myself. Okay, who would I want to go and listen to? Okay, whether it was paid or not.
Sure, this would be a good mentor, but is he a competition?
Yes. So to answer your actual question, I've got an interesting problem with that, because I know I've got to be careful when I say it, because I don't want to. If anyone,
if they listen to this and they're pissed off, it's going to be the best publicity you've ever had. So that's good. Let's go for it.
Well, one of them was a friend of mine. So let me put it this way: the method that they're using is not something I would do, and there's reasons. I have so the group that I run is not just for men. Okay, it's for a mixed group. All right,
sure.
But the method I have with men is a very particular method.
Good.
And it aligns a lot more with what you do, quite frankly. Whereas a lot of men's groups, this is the problem, Rick, is that I'm trying to say this nicely. But
you don't have to be PC with me. I want to hear what you really think.
The problem is, and this is supported by a lot of the work in male psychology. Okay, if you go to the Center for Male Psychology UK, a lot of their work is research based, and they understand this problem. Okay, the problem is there's a lot of shame in men who stand up for other men. Okay. It's like an evolved because there's this understanding, and it's not a conscious thing, but there's this understanding that we are here to protect the women. So there's a lot of shame that comes with men attending men's groups.
Interesting, though. Well, who protects the men?
Exactly.
So who protects the protectors?
So the trick comes in to make men understand, and I think you do this. So I think I'm preaching to the choir here, but the trick comes in is to making men understand that they have the capacity to change the world, change their world, not the world, their world.
We can leave our dent in the universe for sure.
Absolutely. Why? Why do I say that? Because for 4 million years, we've been doing that.
Correct.
Okay. The one line that I use repeatedly with my male clients is, look around you. Everything you see was built by your brothers. Okay. The world that you live in, everything, literally everything was built by your brothers. Why? For their families. Okay. So we need to remember that when we pull men into support groups or into counseling, that they have to have a function, a practical function for that help.
Sure.
And so the reason why I gave you that very long explanation is because I personally don't feel like a lot of men are doing it the right way. So I'm not I don't see. There are other groups that are and support systems that are very popular, but I don't like the way they're doing it. I think that there's things that they're doing wrong. There's a lot of organizations. So I suppose you asked me, or if I understood your question properly, you asked me for a person.
Anybody.
But I would say there are organizations that are doing it well.
Who's your biggest competition? Who's our biggest competition when it comes to working with men?
So I'm happy to compete with something like Men's Shades. I don't know if you've heard of them. You see this, we're talking across the ocean here, Men's Shades, they literally build sheds for men to come and do woodworking and use stuff. But built into that is a support system, it's not counseling, it's just a space for men to talk and to be together, And then there's the the barbershop collective, I think it's called in the UK. what they do is they train barbers on how to notice when a man is in distress. So that's such a simple thing. We can train each other to pick up distress.
You consider like the barbershop guys or shed builders as competition?
Not specifically, because I do one-on-one.
Okay, so that's not even competition then, because you're not building sheds and you're not cutting hair.
Yeah. So I suppose the answer is I don't see anyone using a particularly good model, which is why I'm doing things like this podcast.
Sure.
Because, well, first of all, we need to support the guys that are doing it. Okay, I'm pointing at the camera, like you, and that's really what I would say. So,
my answer is similar. The shorter version is there is no competition.
Yeah.
I do not have a competition. In fact, even with my infrastructure right now and the amount of transformation that we do for guys, I can probably only handle about 500 guys a year. Like if I had that's a lot, because we do full transformation. We're not doing just information. I got stuff you can just buy. I could do millions of people buy shit. No, to really transform, like out of the pain and the madness and the isolation that we have, to really transform a guy into his authentic self and find that alpha inside of him so he can be a good pack leader for his family and his people. Yeah. Like, it takes time. And I could probably only take 500 with my coaches, to do a good job. That's the most I can handle, and that's overloading. How many guys need help? Millions.
Jesus.
Even billions, even, right?
I mean, I just to give you some background, last year, I volunteered at the South African National Crisis Call Center. Okay, so I was taking calls, and I ended up being the go-to guy for the male callers.
Cool.
Okay. Partly because the women can't handle a man in distress.
True.
Okay.
They can't handle the truth on that, right? Yeah.
Yeah, they can't handle it. So that's kind of sad. But I really think men need to hear that. They need to understand that, guys, you need to look for male-friendly resources.
It's the only way, because women do not have empathy for that. Yeah. Correct.
But the policy makers need to understand that you need male-friendly resources, because you're letting down men.
Listen, if you put too many men together, it starts creating infrastructures that are hard to control, because then it creates conversations that can challenge, the structures. And there's a point where you said with the news and stuff like that, there's a point where what is right will supersede who is right. So of course they have us all separated. Do you know? Exactly. Do you know what the toughest group of men, the most powerful group of men, like when it comes to our field for coaching and authors and podcasts and all the things? You know what the best group is? It's all of us put together.
Yes. I agree with that.
There's different warrior types. There's different groups. I'll throw some plugs out to some guys where that's not my style. I mentioned David Mueller. My stepdad was in Man on Fire. It's just another group that does similar works with men. His style,
I've heard of them, yeah.
His style is opposite of my style. It's not my style. He's working more spirit and heart side. I work more mindset, action side. So I work warrior side. And it's the yin yang. You need both. But he's going to do more spirit talks and meditation and blindfold trusting and hugging each other for 10 minutes. They're going to do that stuff. My stuff is going to be tactics, step by step, action, perseverance. Are you trained or untrained? Do you know how to handle these situations? What's going on with you? Know thyself. Know thy enemy. Let's go into battle. You have to have your action side, but you also have to nurture spirit and heart. You can't be a heartless, no-purpose human. No. You have to have all of it. So whose is right? I'm on the yin, he's on the yang. Who's right? Both of us.
Well, I think like you said, it's the yin and the yang, but there's that acknowledges the yin and the yang of a man.
Correct.
I mean, yeah.
So if you're a spirit side or heart side warrior, or if you're body side warrior, action, perseverance, make it happen, or if you're mind side and you're like the oceans of information, I can process, organize, and put it all together. Whatever your strength is as a warrior type, each of us has value together. And so some of us, I'm stronger on mind, body. I'm opened up spirit side, just cracked into my repressed heart. I'm not a heart side warrior, but I've got heart side warriors who are experts on heart. And those guys struggle with their warrior side for body. They're like, I'm having a hard time doing the thing that you do. Together, we are stronger. We fast forward decades, and we can have the conversations with each other that our ladies cannot handle. This is not a slight on our women, because let's be fair, our partners are not our therapists, and their hearts are too close to even be able to handle your unload. We have to have a place you can do that with rule number 2 in the warrior's way. No blame, no shame, no judgment. Just what are you working through, bro? And I've got your back.
100%, yeah.
That makes all of us stronger. So I can't wait to meet guys who run other big groups, because I can only handle so many with true transformation. Information, I can handle millions, but transformation, I can only handle hundreds. And so who's my competition? Nobody. If I ever blew up to the point where I was packed out, I would be referring out to other qualified warriors, people like you and people like other guys who are like, I handle this section. And I'm like, hey, I got some guys for you. They need to go through your training. And then when I got space, we'll switch and I'll throw some other guys. Let's switch them back. Like, we have to fill in all of these gaps to be well-rounded. How do we fast forward 20 to 30 to 50 years of figuring it out within a year or two so you can have those years to actually be an awesome leader? We do it together. That's healthy.
It's a very good point you made there. And I don't want to sound like someone I don't want to sound like an advocate for dependency on anything, but I think something that men need to hear is that the way you said it there, you said, we can address different sections or sectors of them of men. Okay, so you've got what you were talking about is like there's men that will go to the mindfulness kind of stuff, and then there's men that will come to Warrior's Way, which is by definition not the mindfulness stuff. Okay, well, not completely. And I think that's essential. Okay, but this gets complicated because you've got different phases of someone's life. Okay, if a guy's lost his wife or something, he might really benefit from the mindfulness stuff because he needs to be in grieving, he needs to be alone with his emotions, etc., etc.
It is the main part for the Warrior's Way section, as we were just getting into, is understanding how to do your grieving cycle with your coping mechanisms with the enemy within. And if you don't know what you're fighting, you won't win. Like, that is the essence of the Warrior's Way. And so you have to master grief. Grief goes all the way through, too. It can go from you just lost your job, your marriage, your identity, your loss of life, all the way to like, damn, I'm out of my protein shake and can't believe I did that. Like, we go through loss constantly. But if you aren't aware of your system for what your strongest side are, if your heart side, if your body side, if your mind side, if your spirit side, will go in through your acceptance systems with your strengths. Work through denial, bargaining, anger, depression. Work through to get to acceptance, honor, meaning, so that way you can grow and then we can move forward. It's not to say you wouldn't be able to do it alone, because we do, but it's way faster together.
It'll take longer. Yeah. And the other thing I'd say is that the men especially, and this is something I've come to the conclusion after talking to a lot of men, okay, is that you need to find these things that work for you at each stage of your life. Don't think that you can go to 6 weeks of counseling and that's going to resolve you for the rest of your life. Okay, guys, you need to reach out. How much money do we spend on our bloody cell phones, and on watches and on our cars and on all this other garbage that doesn't actually give you any purpose, any fulfillment? You know, if you're gonna achieve something with your energy, you know, I like using that sort of more broad spectrum. Masculinity is an energy, and you've got it. And if you don't use it, you will develop guilt. And when you develop that guilt, it will arrest you, basically. And that's what keeps a lot of men trapped.
Which is why
you need this constant guidance.
You need training. You need training for your grieving side.
Exactly.
You need training.
Exactly.
This guilt is beatable.
Exactly. So we go to training. I mean, you got. I know a lot of guys that go to gym are doing both. But you get a lot of guys that will focus on the gym because they think it can heal everything else. Body. It doesn't heal everything, although it does help.
Just body side, though. It's one of the outlets.
It's body side, exactly.
Body side release, right. But then you got mindset release. If you're not journaling, if you're not writing, if you're not venting or talking it out or sorting. Even right now, we're doing mind side with each other. We're filling each other's minds with different perspectives and different ideas so we can evolve and grow. We're pushing each other's limits on what we know to add new information so we can know more. This is a sense of therapy even between you and I by just sharing and connecting through Mindside. But then also there's a fulfillment here that we are fulfilling a purpose that is meant on a higher level than just this conversation, because the ripples that we create now echo in eternity. It'll go into somebody who changes a belief system, that goes into treating their son better, who now teaches their kid a new form of like not having a generational curse move forward, that goes on to his kids. And now we've created a ripple effect from a conversation that people don't know. That's spirit side. This gets into like how you pray, how you meditate, how you connect with the universe, your placement in existence. That's spirit side. You got heart side too. If you are repressed emotionally and you're trying, I had to do this, my repression heart side, I wasn't crying. Real men don't fucking cry, right? I wasn't crying, so I would suppress sadness and convert it into anger, of course, the only one that would work. Anger was then converted into motivation because I was pissed, or I didn't want to hulk out and hurt my pack. So I would have to release, but now I'm releasing multiple suppressed emotions into one hostile emotion that I would turn into workout. And workout meant progress, and progress meant doing pretty damn good. And I'm like, see that? Beat the system. I was taking my heart side outlet and turning it all into negative emotion. You know what the problem is with that? It's a move away from pain system. So as soon as you hit a certain result, you get comfortable. And the comfort will start building up the sadness that you've never dealt with. And the sadness, suppression leads to expression, will turn into a volcano. And at some point, you turn into a fucking asshole to your people.
That's beautiful. That last 10 seconds was fantastic, because I've said something very similar, repeatedly, that the men wanting to expose their feelings, it exists. Okay, we are still human. Everybody listening, okay, the feminists listening.
There's not that many, Vincent. I haven't even run into them. There's not that many of them.
Yeah, no, exactly. You're quite right. But the trick is that, first of all, society also needs to start learning how men, not learning, but just acknowledging that men do express their emotions in various ways. We don't go on TV on Oprah and cry in front of everybody. You know, we go to gym, we work out, we whatever it is. Okay, we fixate on something. We bury ourselves in porn. That's one way that men soothe their emotions.
It's distraction. Yeah, sure.
It's a distraction.
But it's also biological. We can go that route too, because it's not supposed to be completely unhealthy.
Exactly.
It's
that's true.
Anything in
that's
moderation.
True. Yeah, that's true. So it depends what the reasons are exactly. But what I want to say is, and what I like about what you said there, was that it was when you realized, yes, you were resolving it in your own way, okay? But what's the collateral damage if you keep resolving it your own way without involving your community, your family, or your whatever, okay? So the men need to, and this is where the education comes in, and I know that you're doing this anyway, but the education comes in that we need to tell men that, yes, if you're doing this, this, and this, and this, it's probably because you feel this, this, and this. Okay, so these are signals for your emotions, and you can drop it now. You can stop. You don't have to stop overnight, but you can stop pretending that this thing is not going to happen. Emotions are a signal for action, okay? But if you keep taking the wrong action, you're not resolving the emotion. It's just kind of what you just said, you know? So the men listening, like, if you feel like there's this one thing that you keep pursuing and trying to conquer, you know, and I'm using inverted commas there.
Speaking warrior talk to me, man. Conquer something. Let's go.
Exactly. But work with the emotions as well.
Yes.
And get those out and verbalize them as well.
Having emotions does not make you not a warrior. That's a heart side warrior. That is a warrior still.
Yeah.
And it's a fire side. And so this is going to be like, we call them Spartans on our side. These are the Spartan warriors. And so on one hand, fire can keep you warm. On one hand, fire can be the fire pit we all sit around and we gather and we connect with each other. It's the emotions that can keep you safe, and it can make it so that you can, heat up food. Fire is useful.
Yeah,
but if you don't have control, or if you are wild or reckless, you can flamethrower your entire garden. You can burn your house down. You can destroy a village. And so on one hand, it can be very beautiful and bring light and make the room a happier place. But on the other hand, you can destroy everything. And so it's still a warrior type. You're
absolutely.
Warrior,
absolutely. I use this little description sometimes that what a lot of people don't realize. Well, I don't know how you don't realize this, but I think a lot of people don't realize that the warrior, okay, let's have this warrior in mind. Okay, here's Rick. He's decided to climb this mountain. Mm-hmm. He's going to go do it on Sunday on his own because he's feeling like he needs to be alone. So what does he do? Puts his headset on, puts some metal on. He spends the whole afternoon climbing to the top of this mountain, okay, on his own, maybe with other people as well. I suppose it doesn't really matter whether you're alone or with other people. I'm just giving you one scenario. And what people don't understand is that when you get to the top of the mountain, metaphorically or physically speaking, okay, a lot of us burst into tears when we get there. So you tell me that people don't, that men don't express their emotions. They don't express them how and when you want them to express them. But I promise you, they're expressing them. But again, because I have different moments in my own life. Okay, I'm a mixed bag. I'm very creative. I'm still very physical. There's different things that I do.
You have to be all of them, sure.
But I'll be, for example, I used to canoe, okay, and sometimes I would get out onto the water and I'd be going around a dam or something, and while I was out on the dam, I'd have a little, but it was like a joyful cry. It wasn't a woe is me kind of cry.
Sure.
So I'm expressing emotions, but then I get my shit back together. I finish the route that I was planning to do. And I come back and I'm full of adrenaline. I'm full of, serotonin and endorphins and all the testosterone and all this good stuff.
Sure.
And I go and I carry on running my business. So I'm just to point out, I think it's important for people listening. I had my own business for 21 years, and then I did a psychology degree. So people listening, I'm a 50-year-old counselor now, but I spent 21 years running my own business. And I grew up very poor. I had a son of a bitch, abusive father, who by the time he died, we were best friends. That's a story for another day. And how I got to where I am, to the point that I can talk about counseling and whatever now, is a very long road. It wasn't something that I think the problem is a lot of therapists and counselors come into it with that language because that's how they were trained. Right. They were trained into one track. And that's why I keep bringing up the feminized system, because that is a feminized system. So if you talk to a male counselor and therapist, that's the language you're going to get.
I see what you mean. That makes more sense because you're going off of the education that's given. There's a few different things I have for that. The answers are not the solutions is one of the ones I say the most commonly, is people will say, here's the answer, here's the answer, here's the answer, but they never did what was needed to earn their answers. They never went through the trials. They never went through hell, and so I make a lot of references when I talk to other people who have their psychology degrees in certain areas. And I go, I see what you're doing. You're reading the book to tell people how to get out of hell, but you've never fucking been there. Like, you can look in someone's eyes.
Exactly.
You can look, and you're like, you've never been there. You don't know what it is.
You can tell.
And I use the analogy where they're like reading through their book and they're like, yeah, it says here you're going through a repressed emotion. There should be a bridge right there. And so you just go here and then you cross that bridge. That should be able to get you right out of there. And you got people
like 200 meters, turn left.
But you got people like me who are going in there every day, and you're seeing all these people congregating at this big broken bridge area. And I'm like, what are you guys doing here? They're like, the expert says, they said this is where we're supposed to go. And since there's no bridge here, so I mean, I must be doing something wrong. I must be a piece of shit. I suck at life. I can't even follow a basic instruction here. I'm the worst. And I'm like, why? Because they said there's a bridge. There hasn't been a bridge here for years. Like, this hasn't been. No, the way out of here, we got to go through this, the valley of despair. You got to face your sadness. Then we got to go through doubt. Then you got to go through distractions, which is a tough one because it's going to look fun as fuck. So you got to watch out for that. Then we got to go across anger. Then we got to go out this whole thing where you're going to face your fears, dude. And then you can get out of here. But If you thought it was a bridge, that bridge hasn't been there for decades. I don't know what they're talking about.
Yeah, and the point, I'd just add something there. The point is that the chances are that whole trip, that whole journey that you just explained, inevitably you're going to have to do that journey again. Well, yeah, and if you get through the journey, you're going to be able to do it better next time.
Well, when I train you to beat it, it's not going to stop. I had coffee with doubt this morning. Like, they still show up. They don't quit. You're just more efficient. You're just better trained at being able to beat them.
Yeah.
And so, like, sometimes I'll have those mornings where I'm like, listen, doubt, I'm just starting to kind of feel a little bad for you. Maybe you can strengthen the attack if you were to make it a little more indifferent and just say, like, hey, you know, maybe not all things are a good idea. Then I'll go, maybe it's not a good idea. And then maybe I'll fall down the rabbit hole a little. Try it that time, that way next time. And maybe now I'm trying to coach doubt how to make me have doubt.
Exactly.
Like, it's
That's
just
good.
like,
I love that. You're actually using something that I always tell, especially my male clients, is you need to actually grapple. Like, I get that image into their heads. You need to grapple like a wrestler, you know, with your doubt, with your anger, with your whatever. Each are
different. Some of them you don't grapple because they got spikes. You can't grapple some of those. Some of them you don't grapple. Some of them you can. Yeah. You got to just know what one you're fighting. Some of them will get you. And so if you go in and you tackle an anger one, that one will spike you to pieces. You're not going to tackle that one. Like that one, you can't fight like that. You have to know how they fight and know what their weakness is. With doubt, for example, the definition for doubt is that doubt offers nothing but takes everything. The weakness to doubt is to assess the offer and then accept or decline. You can do this easily. So if you've got a dream, you're like, I want to build a nonprofit to try and help men. You're like, that's a stupid idea, Vincent. That'll never work. That's not even feasible. It's never been done. Mm-hmm. Each of those is an offer. But what is the offer for? Am I strengthening the idea? Am I giving an alternate version? Am I helping in any way to give you a new perspective? Or am I just saying that's not going to work and it's a stupid idea? What's my offer?
Yeah.
Well, there is no offer. It's just me saying you can't do it. But I'm not giving you any alternatives that would work. Well, now I have to look at the offer. On one hand, I have this potential. And that gives me fulfillment and a dream, and it helps millions, and it makes it so my life has purpose. And I can wake up every morning knowing that the meaning of my breath is going to help other people breathe easier. That is one option. Or I can choose nothing. Which one are you picking, Vincent?
So it's interesting. I used the word nihilism this week with one of my clients, and he tried to deflect.
Of course they do. Nihilists have
He tried to deflect from that. But I'm going to bring it up again with him next week because he needs to understand, like, doubt is a perfect example. Okay. There are certain things that lead to nothing, right? That is nihilism. So it might not be in everyone's sort of day-to-day language, but you need to understand that certain behaviors lead to nothing.
Correct.
Like to avoid,
well, here's the thing. Right and wrong is subjective. It's only based on what your goals are. And if his goal is to live a nothing existence, his goal is to be and do nothing, and that's his goal. It's no different than if I wanted to be 600 pounds. Like, I want to gain a lot of weight. And like, oh man, I don't know if that's a great goal. Well, for you, it's not. For me, I want to eat like 6,000 calories every day. And I want to try and get big because I want to be one of those big guys on a scooter. I think that's the coolest thing ever. That's my goal. And you're like, well, in this case, you're eating a bunch of fast food and junk food and sweets and stuff. Like, well, technically you're killing it then, because that's what your goal is to be the big guy on a scooter.
Exactly.
Then you're nailing it. You're on pace for your goal. But if your goal is to be in a far healthier state and have great breathing and good blood pressure and all, I want to be in a healthy state here. Well, eating 6,000 calories of junk is going to take you the wrong way. Well, if this nihilist is like, I don't care if I ever have a purpose. I'm not trying to fulfill anything. I don't believe there's any point to my life, and I don't want to try and fulfill one. Well, if that's what your goal is to do nothing and be nothing and just be, well, then fucking you're nailing it, bro. Bam! Right out the park.
Then you should be happy.
Got it. You're killing a game. You just won because being and doing nothing is simple. You actually you're doing too much now for your goals.
Yeah. But that's the thing, like the that's why we said before we started recording the outcomes of their behaviors. I've had that moment. I'm actually dealing with an obese man as we speak this last few weeks. And I actually at one point had to say to him, he kind of got a little bit defensive about being whether or not he's entitled to eat what he wants when he wants. And I said to him, but is it making you happy?
Well, what was his entitlement defense? I'm curious.
So basically, we assessed 5 values, and he believed, and I believe him actually, he's achieving 4 of those 5 values.
Okay. Very
well, I must say. He's got reputation, he's got financial stability, and he's got meaningful work. He really does. This guy on paper,
okay, fair enough,
is the envy. Well, the kind of man that you and I envy.
I don't, but I'm curious to hear.
Respect. Okay, envy is not a good word. We respect him. Okay, he's not rich, but in his context, this is in rural South Africa,
right? But I want to. I've got a guy I train in Africa too, and we make jokes about how many people talk about, I'm trying to get Africa rich, bro. I'm like, he laughs his ass off. He's like, we are not Africa rich, bro. Nobody's trying to get Africa rich. So like,
exactly.
In any case though, what was his defense? He's like, if you're saying like he was getting triggered or defensive or offended by something, you said it was an entitlement thing. What is his thing where it's like, I'm overweight, but I'm entitled because I don't know what the thing was.
Yeah, because he on the surface, he believes that he's earned this. So he can do it. So he works hard during the week and then he binges.
So this is his reward system.
Yeah.
Okay. So this reminds me of, it's kind of like when you grow up and there's like trophies for playing sports, or you get a reward system for a birthday or a celebration or a graduation. When it's kind of funny because you work your ass off and you fucking kill yourself for your team, and you're training every day and you're running and you're practicing and you're doing new skills. And at the end of it, your team, if you win the whole thing, you get this trophy and you're like, it feels so good. My reward. I got a trophy. And then after you graduate, I ended up finding out that the place at the school got the trophies is like right at the end of the street. And it was like $8 to get a trophy. I could have a ballerina trophy. I could have a karate trophy, a bowling trophy. I could have all these trophies. $8. Yeah. Well, it's the same thing if you look at our reward system. Look at the habits around, like you had a birthday. And when you have a birthday, what kind of food do you have? We celebrate with sweets. That's a reward. We celebrate you. This is the thing. If you did a good job at school or you had a great achievement, let's go out for ice cream. Let's go ahead. Let's get another sweet. Sweets are a reward system. Let's go through our entire process of celebrating you, or celebration has either alcohol or sweets involved. So, of course, I earned it is him giving himself his own trophies whenever he wants to. I could just go buy as many trophies as I want every day, all day. This is how I give myself my rewards.
But you know what's interesting? You mentioned alcohol there as well. What's interesting, okay, this particular case is getting quite complicated in the real life sessions, because he's got a complicated past and whatever. But the one thing that came up, you said, we have a birthday and we'll often have lots of sweets and cakes and some alcohol. Okay. What came out after 4 weeks, what came out was, yes, he does this binging thing and he thinks it's a reward system that he deserves. And he had a period of deprivation growing up.
Sure.
So that reward system is very high. It's a high value reward. Okay.
Right.
The fact that he can eat what he wants when he wants.
But because he was denied it, he needs to fill it. I got it.
But as an adult, guess what he needs? To give himself permission to do that, he has to smoke weed.
Interesting.
What
an interesting unlock.
There it is.
Well, it may be, but the reason he's smoking weed is to give himself permission so he can do something that he felt like he was wrong or
it's not in his values.
Naughty to do. But the reality is this is an avoidance dance, and avoidance is part of the denial system. Denial is the craftiest of all motherfuckers. Yeah. He really is. It's a Trojan horse. He disguises himself as protection or reward when really it's a detriment and destroying you. And it's going to take away from the thing that's inside of there. When I talk about avoidance, if you add a letter, it's a void dance. It's me trying to keep you away from the hole in me that I don't want to talk about. That's part of denial system. So avoidance is avoid dance. I'm going to keep you away from what hurts by distracting myself with something that doesn't hurt, like sweets or alcohol. This is how addiction works, is there's something that I don't like and I don't want you to get near, so I'm going to make myself happy over here by doing something that feels good. I'm going to reward me. And my reward system is going to be comparable to the pain system I'm trying to avoid. Which means I would probably, with this dude, I'd be like, dude, what is hurting you so bad that you have to try and feel so damn good?
Bingo. And we did that, and we're making amazing progress at the moment.
Yeah, let's see what demon shows up, because I put my armor on and let's kill it.
Yeah. What's tragic about that is he's using something that is actually addictive. Correct. You know, the whole sugar spike and all that stuff, you know. The weed, I don't really have a problem with the weed. I said to him, if you were smoking weed with your mates on a Saturday night, I don't have a problem with that. I don't care what you do.
Doesn't matter if we do.
You're doing it to give yourself permission. And, you know, he kind of went blank. His face dropped when I said that to him, because he realized that is actually what he's doing.
Right.
You know. So to bring us back to topic, you know, of everything we've been talking about, I think men in particular need to watch out for the substances that distract us. You know, I've done it. I've been through 2 periods in my life where I was effectively an alcoholic.
Hell yeah, dude.
So I know and I understand.
We would have partied our ass off together. You think I don't know how to play?
Probably.
We would have fucking rocked that whole place. We would have had a whole table singing.
Yeah. I had some very wild years.
I worked at bars for years, bro. We partied hard. I get it.
But you see what you said earlier, like when you meet, that's why I believe I'm successful with the men that I deal with, because they can tell they're talking to a man who's lived these things. I've done those things. You want to go out and get smashed on a Saturday night and screw the first chick you see. I understand what you're doing, but I'm here to work with you to make you understand that there's a better way. Well, you think your goals are, there's a better way.
Well, we have to challenge our belief systems, and that's something that people aren't trained to do. So together we are stronger. You know what the most dangerous letter in the alphabet is?
I think I've heard this. What is it?
I just made it up, so I don't know who you heard it
from. Yeah.
The most dangerous letter in the alphabet is Y. No letter will challenge you more. I have seen 3-year-olds win debates against grown-ups with just that one letter. Why?
Yeah.
Why? That one letter will fuck your whole system up. Because at some point you don't know. And it's hard for even as adults to go, I don't really know. And you have to dig in on your belief systems and go, like, if you're drinking or you're eating every day, do you know why?
Why? Yeah.
Well, why do you need that? Why is that important?
No, and it gets crazy, because when you, with a lot of the stuff that I deal with, when you get down to the why, you can see they're desperately trying to give you a rational answer.
Right.
And I'm like, okay, like I let them stew a little bit, and then eventually I'm like, okay, let's consider the irrational answer, which is whatever, you know. And when I pin that on them, they suddenly click. Oh, I'm actually irrational, you know. And that's the thing you're deflecting from, is the fact that you're irrational.
Well, you're just denying your heart. And that's where, like, why do you work out so hard? Because I'm trying to be the strongest. Well, why do you need to be the strongest? And you get all the way down to, like, I was hurt so much and I couldn't protect my mother and I needed to become stronger, so I was no longer hurt.
Exactly.
It's like, so you're not working out to be the strongest. You're working out because your heart's broken.
And the why matters, because the outcome will be different depending on what fuel you're putting in.
But getting bigger biceps isn't the same as healing your broken heart.
Exactly.
It's not the same.
Exactly, yeah.
If you're trying to be strong to make sure that you can never get hurt like you were when you were little again,
it's a lost cause.
Well, you'll be strong, but your heart will still be broken. How are you going to find love then if your entire system is based on a busted heart?
Exactly.
I'm going to hold it with my biceps. It's like, it's adorable, man.
Yeah.
No, to get real strong, you're going to have to go into this heart side a little bit. But the toughest guys are able to have the humility to be able to go, I can go into all the outlets, like your canoe ride. Listen, I'll go to the gym and I'll pump out some weights with you, or we'll do some hardcore workouts. Awesome. But then also we can write our asses off and help the mind side have an outlet too. I'll go and pray and I'll work my shit out with God. That's between us. That's my spiritual outlet or my spiritual fulfillment. And then I've got you can cry it out, or you got to work on it through your emotions, man. And sometimes you're in your canoe, you cry that shit out, and then you feel good. Each side has an outlet system. And if you're repressed or suppressed in one or multiple of those, you're going to have issues. The system is going to be malfunctioning in some way, shape, or form. Which one is right? All of them are right. Which one do you use? Pick. Which one is going wrong? There's nothing wrong. Are you trained or untrained in each area? That's it.
I must say, if I've learned something today, it's rubbing in that point of you, especially for men. If you're not training, if you're not doing the reps, like you said, in the methods of developing your soul, besides along with your body, you have to do your body as well. They go together.
You have to have mind and you have to have heart. You have to have heart.
Yeah, but you see that often that requires courage in the face of criticism.
Correct.
It requires
competency,
building up the confidence.
Confidence is just three parts. First is courage to do something that scares the shit out of you, but I'm going to do it anyways, which is difficult because the definition is also the same as stupidity, so it makes it a little tricky. Like, that's probably going to hurt, but I'm going to do it anyways. Like, yeah, it could be courageous, could be stupid. That's what makes life hard with that one.
Yeah.
But this is going to be tough. This is going to be hard. I'm going to be brave and courageous, and I'm going to go for it. I'm going to do the work. All right. Next is competency. This is how much did you practice? Because if you want to be confident in something, the more you do it, the more confident you are. I don't care if it's public speaking to driving your car. Whatever you do the most of, you're going to feel better about. Look at your first day on the job versus 10 years in. It's autopilot.
Yeah.
So competency. Yeah. The last one is certainty. Certainty is like, if you think about it, I don't know if you're good at math. I know you're in the psychology world. Let's do some quick math together. What is your percentage of your survival rate so far for all the things you've been through?
My personal.
Yeah, your personal. What's your personal survival rate so far out of everything you've ever been through?
100%.
Oh man, you're good at math. You're fast. That was fast math. You have a 100% survival rate so far. You're not dead. You're still here.
Exactly.
You've survived everything so far. Good. Like, nailed it, right? Well, what are the odds of this thing with your level of training in all these different aspects? And I can go through 6 things to see if you really actually are ready for whatever's going to come up. What are the odds with your experiences and what you've been through that was way harder than this bullshit coming up, that it's going to be the thing that takes you out? What, a rejection? What, embarrassment? Was it going to be feeling ashamed or something, or feeling bad for something that happened that you had to learn a lesson the hard way? Like, what thing is going to be the thing that, I'm dead now?
Exactly. Yeah.
Well, no, the certainty is this probably isn't going to be the hardest thing I've ever gone through, and I've survived all of that. So let's go through the 6 things. All right, Vincent, let's see how qualified you are to be able to handle some shit. All right, do you have problem-solving skills?
Yeah.
All right, we got problem-solving skills, so whatever comes up, I can probably figure it out. How about creativity? You ever get outside the box?
Well, I was just going to say, your problem-solving skills hinge on creativity.
Well, yours do, because that's your strong side. So you're going to go higher creativity. I'm going to get outside the box. I'll figure it out. What about resourcefulness? Can you, I don't have it yet, but I'll find a way to get it?
Yeah.
You'll figure that out. I'll make some phone calls. I'll figure it out. I'll get away.
Yeah.
All right. Speaking of making phone calls, do you have a support system that's like, hey, I need some advice on this, or what do you guys see on this, or hey, can I get some backup? Do you have any support system at all?
Yeah, I mean, I do now, but I think one of the catches, one of the tricks with that is if you don't have a support system, you have to make the connection between, talking about the bridges. You were talking about the bridges earlier. That's a very important concept that you mentioned there, to the support system. You get to the bridge and there's all these guys standing around. They don't know how to cross the bridge.
Right.
But you need to understand that if you don't have the support system, you need to go back and give people a reason to be the support.
Well, let's go ahead, instead of me giving a reason, because I don't need to give an answer to a solution that they already know. Well, let's go back to that damn letter again. You don't have a support system. Why? Well, I don't call anybody. Why? And I don't hang out with anyone, and I don't reach out, and I don't do anything. Why? It's like, well, it makes sense that nobody hangs out with you when you don't hang out with anybody. What you can do, though, is hang out with people. And I got a whole thing for introverts. If you're like, I don't like doing that. Be like, but you want a support system. I'll show you how your value works within a group where you don't have to be out of your comfort zone.
Yes.
Pretty awesome.
Yes.
So, let's say we can go get a support system, or even right now we can create one. If you're like, dude, I don't have a support system, I'm like, call me. Now we just made one. Now you have a support system.
Look how easy that was.
Or both of us, if anybody's listening to this and going, I don't have a support system, our links are in the fucking bio. You can have a support system in 20 minutes.
Right there, yeah.
Like, pick one. If you want to work with Vincent or me, we got to support both. You got a double support system immediately. So you're only as alone as you believe you are. And that's very important. All right.
Yes.
Next one. Do you have any belief system in yourself, or like I've got higher power, or law of attraction? Do you have any belief system in your energy is something more to me than just this meat suit? Do you have anything that's like that?
I'm very blessed that I've always had that.
Good. So you got 5 out of those, and then we already went through the survival rate. So you have more competency now because of experience and training and wisdom. That pretty much now at this point, you have all 6. What problem are we worried about again?
Exactly. Yeah.
No, for real, for confidence sake. What are we worried about again? This is also part of the formula for beating anxiety, by the way. Yeah, what are we worried about? What am I afraid of? If I've got all 6 of these things, shouldn't I be more curious so I can use my system?
So I'd add an addendum to that the anxiety, you said anxiety. Okay, so
we beat it. I'll show you how to beat it. It's killable.
The how to beat it is exactly as you say, and I completely agree with that. Okay, but again, the why. Okay, why do you have anxiety? Right. Is it because possibly you were influenced to take a path? The path wasn't your choosing, and when you do that,
you accepted a path without information that would have given you an ulterior option. You didn't know better, so you weren't trained enough to recognize the choice. That's all.
But that's okay. So I don't want to say anything derogatory. So let me put it this way, rather. When we're young, we accept the values of our family. Correct. We accept the values of the church. Maybe we were raised in a religious background. We accept the values that were given to us.
Teachers, coaches, bosses, spouses.
We need to because we don't know shit, right?
Right.
So you accept. So if you're 14 years old, just accept the values around you, okay? Mm-hmm. Because you don't know anything. All right, just deal with that. Trust the people around you, that they love you, that they're going to lead you hopefully in the right direction, okay? But the crisis comes when you have to develop your own values, because if you keep pursuing the values that were handed down to you, there's a chance that some of those values are not authentic. They're not yours.
Most of them
and that's not your path. Correct. And if you don't know your path, you're going to get to 50 and you're going to be like, I don't know who I am.
Most don't. No.
So a lot of the deflection and the distraction that we're talking about earlier, a lot of what happens is that people will spend all the reason why they go and consume and they drink and they distract themselves and they work really hard is because they're ignoring the fact that they're supposed to find your own path.
Yes.
Yeah.
I'm with you. I'm with you.
I know we are.
Yeah, the journey is there. And people they're not able to challenge it. We're told what to do, and then we always take care of other people. That's why I moved What Do You Want to section, I think it's section 12 now in my program. You can't start off with what do you want. It's just a punch in the face. I start off with your default program with what do you do now?
Yes.
So that way we can know if we're sliding backwards. But to start off with what you want, you've always been told what to do your whole life. My military guys, fucked. It's so hard. Because first it's your parents, then it's your teachers, then it's your coaches, then it's your bosses. It could be a spouse or girlfriend. Or boyfriend, whatever, spouse or whoever you're with. And then it goes into commanding officers, and you're always told what you're supposed to do. Yeah. When to wake up, when to eat, when to shit, when to go places, when to go run, when to do the exercise, when the mission parameters are, when you're leaving. You're told what to do every day, all day long. And then one of the toughest losses is when you leave that system for support, for structure, for all of the things that you are built entire foundation on to serve and to be of purpose and to serve others. Well, all of that's gone within a moment, and you're supposed to somehow have an idea of what do you want. I've never used that muscle. I don't know.
You just reminded me. I had a suicidal guy last year, 62, had his own business, had done really well, retired. Within 2 years of retiring, his wife and daughter left him.
Yeah, totally isolated, for sure.
Okay, yeah, and he was literally isolated because he bought a farm in the hills which he thought he was buying for the family. It wasn't like in a remote area, but it was in the hills outside of a town.
Every day is a reminder of his failure in this place.
Do you know what he said? Do you know what he said to me, Rick? I said to him, what? Because he kept talking about, like, he kind of kept dancing around what the actual reason that he wants to kill himself. And he said, because he eventually came to it that I'm bitter, I'm angry, I'm resentful, I've given up hope. Why? Because his words were, I did the mission. And I said, what was the mission? So he was in the military. Okay. Yes. He spent a lot of years in the military in South Africa. I said to him, okay, that's very bizarre. I've never heard that before, because we don't have the sort of military culture that you have. You have current military. We don't really have that anymore. But because of his age, he spent a lot of years in the military. So I said to him, well, what was the mission? The mission was to get married, raise my children well, provide for them, provide security, provide. So his idea was that was the mission. And he did the mission, and he thought there would be a reward, yes. But along the way, he lost track of what his values were.
Well, the purpose of the mission. He didn't know why the mission was. He just knew what the mission was. He knew what. He didn't know why, and he didn't understand
exactly.
It's a tough setup for that guy. So there's one thing when it comes to isolation for the suicide guys. When I'm working with these guys, what we've ended up doing is when we're assessing people's abilities and their strengths, one of the things I noticed was one of the biggest things when I would get those suicide calls, and I'd have to take these calls. I don't have anybody else take those calls. But it would be every couple of weeks. There'd be a guy who we have a thing called answering the call in the Warrior's Way. I don't require you to fill out a dissertation of what's going on with your feelings right now. All we do is we have this image of a Viking blowing a horn, and you just drop that in this chat, and somebody shows up. You don't have to explain. This is just, I'm in a max crisis situation. This is when the guys are like, me and my wife are about to split. I don't know what the fuck to do. I'm losing my mind. Or, I'm sitting in the truck next to my gun and I'm about to do it. This is those moments where man, it's all falling apart. I would have to do those calls. It'd probably be every couple of weeks. There'd be somebody, and I'm 3 a.m. I'm helping a guy or working through his purpose or giving him value within the group so he doesn't end it all. Things like this where we got to give you a place to belong. Well, one of our guys, Phil was one of these guys. He was all alone. He's had a really terrible injury, crushed the right side of his body, so his right arm and his right leg are all fucked up. We make jokes because he's got a flipper thing, so we'll make flipper jokes with him. I love Phil. Phil's superpower, and when we started going through what are your greatest abilities, one of Phil's superpowers is he's likable. People are he's likable? I'm you ask an introvert if they want to just be liked for no reason.
Yeah.
Because they're I will take the likable power, please. They just like you. I'll take that, please. That's Phil. He's just fucking likable. Everybody likes Phil. We call him Dr. Phil. Everybody likes Phil. And so he started doing a thing at the nighttime where I would run the morning groups where we do a lot more training and we go into battle. But then at night, he would run a group where the guys would get together and just bullshit. Just hang out, talk about fishing, talk about trucks, video games. I don't care what you talk about. Hang out. And the guys who were isolated, the guys who are struggling, the guys who are all alone, they would just go hang out. And they would just hang with Phil. And these guys are all trained warriors. We've all gone through battles together, so they couldn't handle. They're proficient. They're not at my level, but they are tough enough to handle most of the small stuff. Something big comes up, they'll call me. But most of the small battles, they're able to lock shields and fight. And so these guys, if you need to fight, they're there. But if not, it's just bullshitting, ragging on each other, goofing around, being playful, all other guys having fun, right? It's been about 7 months since we put that group together. I've had 0 calls. We've had 0 suicide calls since we've had a place just to hang and belong.
Wow. So the other group that I mentioned earlier, I won't give you the whole background of it, but the purpose of that group is primarily just to give them a space so they have the common factor to join the group is that you have this particular it's a trauma. This is a genuine trauma. So if you have that, then I'll screen you and you can come into the group. So I want to make sure that people are coming in are stable, you know. But the whole point of that group is just to give them that foundation, that they know they belong to something, that there's other people that are experiencing similar things. It's very underrated, that whole thing. And this is where the men's groups, like you said, okay, who are the other groups that are doing this? Because I don't think people want to do this kind of stuff. They don't see the value of it. But you've got to start somewhere, you know. And that's the problem with a lot of men, is that they surround themselves with, you know, work colleagues and family, you know. So they don't have spaces where they can actually. This is why they end up in bars.
Right.
I mean,
well, they belong. They can buy a round and be best friends for the night.
Exactly.
They belong.
Exactly.
And I've got guys who we've beaten alcohol. Like, we've beaten the alcohol curse. This is a addiction, and we've beaten it. It's beatable, but they have to replace some of those things. In any case, on this one, it gets back to the isolation and us belonging with each other. It's funny how you say these other groups or other things like this. The thing is like, any guys who are struggling to go like, I actually think I need to get some help. I think that's where it gets messed up, is they call it getting help. It's not getting help. It's teaming up, having each other's back. Like, don't call it getting help. Like, this is one of those things, like, we've always been stronger together. Protect the village, better together. Hunt and gather, better together.
Yes.
Build a skyscraper, better together. Be a football team, better together. You ever seen like special ops forces? I mean, like, you got SAS, we got Navy SEALs, Delta Force, and going like, those guys are all working together? What a bunch of pussies. You're like, that's the baddest dudes in the world. No, when they work together, whoever they're against is fucked.
Exactly.
Like, you can't look at them and say, what a bunch of wusses. You're like, no, when they work together, whatever's against them is in trouble.
Yeah.
Like, and so this is where, why did we in this day and age, maybe it's part of this thing where this masculinity thing or something. I'm not plugged into some of those algorithms where I'm not getting some of that. Like,
you don't have to be. Don't.
But I'm not influenced by any of this stuff, because I would probably reject the ideology anyways, because it doesn't resonate with me. I'm like, that's not who I am. It doesn't affect me. I would remember the doubt thing. I would just decline the offers. I'm like, that's not me. You're bad because you're misogynist. I'm like, I work with women and I don't have any of those biases. I don't know what you're talking about.
Exactly.
Like, it'd bounce off of me. I wouldn't care.
Exactly.
But when we're all working together, that's why guys are all stronger together, because when the alphas convene, we get healthy behaviors to go have good leadership with the other guys. And so if there's anything I'm going to leave us with on this in any way, shape, or form, I don't care where you go. Find a place you belong where men need men. This is why we would go shoot basketball or work on the car or hang in the garage or play video games or whatever your thing is. We need each other, because we have to have that council of advisors, and some people are not qualified for certain things, and that's why guys like us exist. Reach out and go, hey, I'm on a thing that's on a level that's higher than my buddy. He's not qualified in any of this field, but I need somebody who's gone through this battle before. How do you beat this? And I'm like, oh yeah, I got to train you how to do this and this. That way, when that comes up, you have to do this type of an attack. You'll wipe it out. No problem. And you're like, so first off, that gives me hope. Second off, I can practice something and beat this. I'm like, we do it every day.
Competency.
Yeah, it's just competency. You got to practice, man.
Yeah.
And like, I'll just show you what to practice. But if you're trying to shoot a basketball like a bowling ball, you're going to be the worst.
I think, like, so much you said today was just perfect, because I know you hammered home the competency thing earlier already, but I just want to add something to that going back to the mate thing, you know, finding a mate or finding a wife or whatever it is, whatever language you want to use, you need to understand that when someone, I mean, we know this, you and I know this, when you meet a man who is self-actualized, okay, I'm using inverted commas, the man that's genuinely self-actualized, you can tell immediately. Because why? Because he has competency and he knows it. Why? Because he's been told. He's had the measures. He's performed the duties, the responsibilities, whatever it is. So the thing is, though, that as an adult, let's say, so obviously this can happen when you're 30, it can happen when you're 50, It can happen at different stages of life, but you can't be self-actualized unless you've got competency in multiple areas. Okay. So in other words, you and I could probably talk for another 2 hours because you and I have competencies in multiple areas. Okay. So men need to understand that to get to that process, men and women, okay, I know I'm directing most of my comments to men, but men and women, to get to that self-actualized, and by the way, Viktor Frankl talks about this, so it's not stuff that I've come up with, it's not original.
Most of this is just a reiterated version of things that have been talked about for thousands of years.
Of knowledge that we hold, that we all hold. A lot of it is intuitive, but we're too distracted to listen. So you need to be told. Okay, so you need to come to our groups or my counseling to be told.
The repetition matters. So if you can listen to, you can read Viktor Frankl and then go to Vincent, and you'll both say the same thing a different way.
They might say the same thing.
One will connect. Tony Robbins was just copying Jim Rohn when he started. Like, it's just the same. We're all just doing our own version.
Yeah, the huge impact on me, Tony Robbins, when I was younger. I must admit, his book. I read his book when I was around 28, and it had a massive impact on me. I haven't read him since because I've gone on to different things, but a lot of what he says and a lot of what Jordan Peterson says is accurate. You know, Jordan Peterson does that thing where he says to men, to boys, just clean up your room, because that's what he's saying. He's just be competent in something.
Well, take care of yourself before you try and take care of everybody else. And it actually works really well with women also. Moms struggle with that.
Absolutely.
They think that their value comes from taking care of others. But what happens when everyone's taken care of and you don't take care of yourself? You're just burnt out.
Yeah.
You know, it's like, no, it's the other way around, because you got to remember the generational curses that get passed forward come from what we do, not what we say.
Yeah.
So if I'm showing my kids, don't take care of yourself, make sure you only take care of other people, and that's what you do. And then you're like, you got to take care of yourself. They're just going to do what you do, and they're not going to take care of themselves and wonder why they're not happy.
Oh, that's such a good point. And I would say this is the thing. It's interesting if you think about it. This is the thing that makes us all a little bit uncomfortable when someone talks too much. That's what we start suspecting.
It's part of the negotiation defense system. It's part of I've rewritten the fawn section. It's not correct. Part of the negotiator, though, is going to try to control the conversation to make it so they can mitigate, consequence. Try to make it so people aren't getting so mad, but oftentimes will compromise themselves in order to find peace. So I'll change myself if it makes you happy.
Yeah.
So
in fact, what they're trying to do is they're trying to see how they need to change.
Correct. Yeah, it's part of the negotiator. So even if you go into the coping styles for it, you got retreat, hide, suppression for denial. You got attack for fight system. So it's going to be the attack system. You've got surrender, which is depression system. So that's going to be I give up, I quit, I'm not doing it, whatever.
Yeah.
Freeze. That's what that one is. Yeah. And then fawning is I rewrote it for being negotiating. This is going to be a little bit more complicated. It falls into a lot of people-pleasing behavior.
Yeah. I love the fact that you not reduced it, but that you simplified it to the flight, freeze, fawn. I love that you did that because, again, I just keep coming back to men. Men need something that's just tell me. Correct. And because very often they'll do it.
This is the way. This is why is my side works so well with men. Is because it's not about all the feelings and all the spirituality, which exists. But first we have to get into, what am I doing first? So what am I supposed to do? Here's my last thing before we bounce out of here. Here's my analogy. You can read all the books. You can watch all the Instagram people. You can have all the stuff. And they say, this is the answer, bro. This is the answer. This is how the solved cube is supposed to look. You have a Rubik's Cube, all the colors on each side. That's what your life is supposed to be. You can have all of this. So you go out and you seek, right? I'm going to seek to find it. And they're going to be like, follow me and you'll have your cube. And you're like, okay, he's got the greens. That looks pretty good. And then you get in the program, you spend $6,000 or $10,000 or something to get into the program. And you're like, all right, I'm in it. I'm invested. I'm going to solve my cube. And you start hanging out and you start to realize like, hey, your cube's not solved. And wait a second. Did you try and peel the sticker off of this one? Wait a second. This is bullshit. You only have greens. They're like, well, I'll get those finances together for you. you'll be financially happy. I got you.
Yeah.
And you're like,
Yeah.
motherfucker, if I do this, if I get this, now I don't know the next step. So it looks like if I want to solve yellows, I have to turn the greens.
You got to start all over it, bloody game.
And it means I have to mess up my progress to even work on more progress.
Yeah.
And I don't know what that looks like because you've only shown me this far. And so people are trying to make it so they can solve their cubes with people who only have one piece of the damn puzzle done.
That's my problem with Tate.
With what?
With Tate, Andrew Tate.
Sure, which is fine if people are going to
exactly.
say, let me get that piece, fine, get that piece. But at some point,
But
if
realize
you challenge, you're going to realize there's other sides to this cube that need to be.
There's other sides, exactly. That's why I say, if you take his comments in isolation, that's the green. That's the one side of the cube that you figured out. Fine, cool, okay.
Right, well, sometimes you got to get the green, so that's fair.
This is why people like Jordan Peterson intimidate everybody, because he's dealing with all sides.
I am so fascinated with I got to find this algorithm you're in. I have never been intimidated by Jordan Peterson, so I don't know what it is that like
Some people hate him.
For what? The guy's as neutral as he could be.
There's a I should send it to you. There's an article that I wrote that was published in the UK called The Rogue Male. Okay, and I break down what makes the rogue male. You'd love it. I must send it to you.
Sure.
And I call Jordan Peterson a rogue male, and in a benevolent sense. Okay, you get the bad rogue male, you get the malevolent rogue male, who sometimes will become the benevolent rogue male. Okay, so you think I'm really glad you've got a picture of a lion behind you, because that's exactly the scenario that I use. In the wild, you'll see a rogue lion, and you'll think, oh, he's dangerous. Okay, but the problem is, you need to be specific. If it's a young lion that's rogue, what he's actually doing is he's finding his ground, he's finding his turf, and he's biding his time. He's building skills to come back to the pride and become the what's the right, the king of the pride, or whatever,
the leader,
the alpha, or whatever. Right. Yeah. And what people don't understand is that sometimes the rogue is more like Jordan Peterson, that he's done everything already. So he says whatever the hell he wants because he doesn't need you.
Well, he has high anxiety around this. There's a lot of pressure around what he's doing. Like, and he's not quiet about like the attacks that he takes. He's not a confrontational guy.
No, he's not.
He hates it. But he has to do what is right. The whole thing he did when he was fighting for free speech in Canada, he's like, I didn't do that because I wanted publicity. I did it because it was the right thing to do. But I hated the publicity. He's like, I did not want this attention. So he's doing well with it. But like he's even had to take, borderline sabbaticals because he's had to recover from the amount of stress and anxiety that's come from this. Throw on top of that the attacks that come on Michaela Peterson with the lion diet. Like, it seems like it's fucking working, and still they will attack viciously. And you're like, there's no objectivity here. Right now, we're going only subjective. And I think that judgments is definitely one of the telltale signs that the more judgmental somebody is, the more wounded they are. But these people, like, if you listen to them, because I'm really impartial I just listen to people objectively. I don't care. I've had, on this show, I've had everything from people who are hardcore Bible to transgender. I'm good with everybody. We're all human beings, all just trying to do our best for our families. That's it. Like, we're all just people. It doesn't matter. But if we add in all of these polarization judgments that he is a rogue male, he's a dude who's just doing the right thing. And
no, don't misunderstand me.
Okay.
What I'm saying, and you'll need to read the article. What I'm saying is there's a rogue male archetype that exists in our culture. Okay. So people misunderstand Jordan Peterson as rogue. And that if you actually understand and analyze what he's doing, he's not. He's actually wisdom can appear to be rogue. That's the problem. And he acknowledges this. I mean, this is not something that he hides from. He says they can come after me. They can ban my YouTube account. I don't care. I'm going to keep going.
Right.
So he appears rogue. So what we do is we try and vilify him as a rogue male. But you don't understand. There's different sides to the rogue. There's a function in rogue, in going rogue. And basically my argument in that article is trying to point out that in the spirit of masculinity, there's an element of being rogue. That's how we find ourselves initially as young males. We go rogue, we find ourselves, we develop ourselves in that state, and then we come back. And the ones that are the asset to the community were at one point rogue, and they might go rogue in future. So in other words, what I'm trying to say is, don't be terrified when you see a man that appears to be rogue. You need to understand what's happening there.
Yeah, we have to challenge everything. And I think this is where the shame and the guilt systems get so interesting to me. It's like, the reason you went rogue was because you have to go fuck some shit up so that way you learn lessons to make you a better leader.
Exactly.
And the road to mastery is going to mean you failed in every way that you could.
Yes.
That's what makes you a master.
And
so go mess some stuff up so you can learn the lessons you need to make you an effective leader. But if you think you're going to get it by reading it from a book and that makes you proficient, I can read about swords all day long, but if I've never gotten to a blacksmith where I pound my own metal, I won't understand the folds. I won't understand the strength. I won't understand tempering. I won't understand it, but I'll understand swords. It's like, to truly understand, you have to have some competency in doing. You cannot just know, you have to do. The answers are not the solutions, and the answers that you're seeking are earned. They are not given.
Yep. Should we end it there?
It was good, right?
That was beautiful. Yeah.
Thank you. So it's been such an honor, man. Such a pleasure. I really enjoyed this. I got another call in 15 minutes I've been looking forward to. So this has been really, really fun. Thank you so much. Vincent, of course, we're going to hang out again. How could we not? So, in which case, we want to have all your stuff. How do people get in touch with you? If people are listening to this and like, dude, I love this dude. This guy's fantastic. I got to work with him.
So. Yeah.
How do they get in touch with you? Where do they go? What do they have to do?
So if you're on Twitter, go to Vincent Psych SA. It's on the screen over there. And you can look me up I'm listed as a counselor on Psychology Today. If you need to search for Angelo Debani, that's my full name. Vincent's my middle name. So that's probably the easiest way. Otherwise, I'll give you my email address when we're done. It's angelodebani73@gmail.com. They can email me. I'm happy to talk to people, do a one-off session, and then we can decide.
For sure. I'll have all your links in the bios and stuff here too. We'll make sure that people have your links. So we'll be emailing you, and then we'll make sure we have everything you need so people can get in touch with you. And then if you're listening to this on the battlefield of the mind, first off, if you made it this far, you're a legend.
Yeah. Can I just say to the people that are still listening, trust me when I tell you that what Rick is telling you is gold. It is pure gold. I've listened to your stuff. I haven't done the whole program and everything, but from what I can tell, this is gold. This is what men need, and women can get a lot of insight into how men function and how men, what motivates us, what incentives and rewards get us to be better men. You want to know? Pay attention to what Rick is talking about, because this is really gold.
It's an honor, man. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
I very much appreciate you. We got more conversations in the future. Thank you so much for doing this. Please, we're gonna book another call. We're gonna do another one soon. So more to come, everybody. So I'm looking forward to seeing how this goes. So thank you, Vincent. Have a good one, brother, and we will talk again soon.
Yeah.
See ya.
Cheers, man.
Cheers.
Click on the button and you can become the hero in your own story. It's time to start making the choices to change. And the evolution that you're going to do begins with choosing the next step. This is the way. And together, we're always stronger.